Test one.
Testing, testing,
Test, test.
Yep, okay.
testing.
Sorry, I'm late, everybody. It's my fault, no one else's. Is it recording?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that part. All right. Hello, everybody. I call to order the first city council meeting of the year. It's January 8th. It's 6:32. And again, I do apologize for being late today. First thing we're going to do is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call, Rebecca, please.
Mayor Breeden,
I'm here.
Councillor Ross,
Present.
Councillor Lutz,
Here.
Councillor McDougall,
Here.
Councillor Pellerin.
Here.
And next up is a really fun thing. We get to do oath of office for our two new counselors.
And
Yeah.
I'm returning one too.
And our returning one too. I apologize. Yeah. I forgot you have to do it too.
No.
You get to watch.
How's it work? It's
So
been a while.
if the counselor-elects will join me down in front of the dais and we can do this, Jennifer Letts first. We'll do it one at a time. So Counselor Letts.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mine is the past.
Okay.
And you've done this before, so.
Well, not really, because of COVID. Do it online.
So raise your right hand.
Yeah.
Okay. I, Jennifer Letts. Solemnly swear.
Solemnly swear.
Laws of the United States and the state of Oregon.
I will uphold the laws of the Constitution, the United States, and the state of Oregon. And the charter, ordinances, and rules of the city of Sisters,
And to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my abilities,
faithfully perform the duties.
do that one again.
Fully and faithfully perform
Fully and faithfully perform
the duties of city.
the duties of city councillor for the city of Sisters.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sarah McDougall.
One word at a time.
Yeah, make those shorter.
Okay, raise your right hand. I, Sarah McDougall,
I, Sarah McDougall,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
uphold the Constitution
I will uphold the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States
state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon, and the charter, ordinances, and rules of the city of Sisters,
best of my abilities,
and to the best of my abilities,
faithfully, fully perform the duties of city councilor for the city of Oregon.
faithfully and fully perform the duties of city councillor of the city of Sisters.
Congratulations.
And next up is Cheryl Pellerin. Some every two, depending.
All right, raise your right hand. Cheryl Pellerin,
I, Cheryl Pellerin,
solemnly swear I will uphold
solemnly swear I will uphold
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
and the charter, ordinances, and rules
and the charters, ordinances, and rules
of the city of Sisters,
of the city of Sisters,
and to the best of my abilities,
and to the best of my abilities,
fully and faithfully perform
fully and faithfully perform
the duties of city councilor for the city of Sisters.
the duties of city councillor for the city of Sisters.
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, it's fine. That's fine. I came in late. And congratulations.
Thank you. That was a good first test.
Yeah, well, you know. Nobody has to be perfect around here, that's for sure. We just do the best we can at all times. Next up is the selection of the mayor. And this is kind of a weird process because in the city charter, it says we get to decide who the mayor is. So I'm going to throw it up for a nomination. Does anybody have a nomination?
I would like to nominate Jennifer Letts to serve a term as mayor.
Have a second.
I would second.
There you go. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Is there anybody else who wants to offer up anybody? Just want to make sure.
No?
Okay.
I mean, we got a nomination and a second and we'll see how it
Still
goes.
goes.
Yeah. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye. Any nays? There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Which spots? Can we do that later or
I
what do you
think
want to
We'll
do?
figure it out.
We could do that after the selection of council president.
Okay. Yeah, well,
We'll do
we'll
it
switch it
later.
up. She's the mayor though.
Yeah,
There you go.
thank
So,
you.
Here, gotta have that. We'll switch seats and stuff though.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Michael, and I just want to say, it's been a pleasure working under you, with you, as mayor for the last 4 years. You're going to be a hard act to follow, and I've learned a lot from you, and please shout out pointers when you feel I need them, because I will really appreciate them, so
I'm not usually short of words, so I
Yeah.
think we're okay.
I hope I can do your time justice.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a selection of council presidents. Does anybody have a nomination for council president?
I'd like to nominate Counselor McDougal for president.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
That's all of us.
all right.
There you go. Congratulations. Now we can switch spots. Because the
Oh.
middle one really should be the mayor.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah, if you want to take the opportunity to do.
We'll do
Sure,
all the-
I'll just scoot my chairs.
Okay.
Sure.
Gary will probably, or you can slide over one either way.
Gosh,
I don't mind being on the end.
I moved
It's
in.
the-
Yeah.
If you're on the end, it's the fastest way out of it, right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna be
We'll
great.
figure it out. All good.
Might all be different by next meeting. I have an extra pen.
I speak when I need to.
you're sufficient.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yes.
Thanks, I appreciate you. taking care of all that. Oh, this chair is.
Should brought you.
All right, next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I need a motion for that.
I move that we approve the agenda submitted.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. And thank you, everybody, for being flexible. We had our new counselors were in training all day today in Redmond. And so we did not have time for a workshop today, so we're doing a little bit of a compressed meeting today. So we're going to start out with visitor communication. And we do have some visitor communication, and then we also do have an organization that wanted to do a presentation that normally would have been our workshop, but we'll allow it during this time. So, but we'll start with what Rebecca has there.
Bill Willetts.
You can come up to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name and address if you can, and we usually like to limit it to 3 minutes if possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to acknowledge that gentleman in the green fleece took over 200 pictures of you, Sarah. I think they call that love. I'm not sure.
We are related.
I thought so.
That's good.
And a smooth transfer of power. Good work. So I'm here to acknowledge that I was here 20 years ago, 24 years ago, when we were planning our first, or my first UGB expansion. And our property, Mackenzie Meadow Village, came in. And at the time, we failed to understand the future of our community. Back then, median income was $45,000. A home cost about $120,000. Rent was about $500. and the American dream of homeownership was alive. And then about 2007, Airbnb came along. They went from 0 to 7.7 million homes that they control, and that took a little bit of inventory off the market. Price escalation, about 2014, we crossed the point of no return, and that is no return to home ownership because of escalating housing costs. Fires have contributed to increased insurance costs. Home interest rates are back to their 20-year average of about 6%. And forced homesteading seems to be an option. It would be the option that I would take rather than paying $1,600 or $1,800 a month rent. I'd have an RV in the forest and drag in water and drag in propane. In 2024, the Sisters family median income is around $84,000, and a home costs about $850,000. And even if we gifted a full down payment of $160,000 or $170,000, a firefighter, a school teacher couldn't afford the monthly payment. So I'm here to say, with the UGB expansion, we need to have 30% workforce housing mandated, and we need to have a build out of less than 6 years. We don't want to let somebody come into the UGB and build family wealth by just sitting on that property. So, you know, my points here, we need to assure equitable housing in our 2024 expansion. New lands, 30%. We need to help families that own land navigate so they can get to the point where they can deliver 30% affordable. And I believe this is our vanguard of change. Sisters is on the forefront. We're one of the first communities that will act on a UGB expansion. Bend is with us, and there's a couple of other outlying communities as well. We've got to get it right. And I know that back in 2004, with all the right intentions, we put Sisters on a Titanic. And here we are today at $850,000 average home price and no opportunity for our essential workers to own a home. We have to turn that around, and I believe it's going to be the single most important decision that you make in your tenure on this council. So with that, I will personally be reaching out to each of you just to have a conversation and try to define what my thoughts and feelings are on a more one-on-one basis once the dust settles here for a month or so. So I thank you. Oh, and I have a handout.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening, councilors. First, want to say, just as a member of the Peter Hoover, Executive Director, Sisters Habitat for Humanity, 221 South Ash here in Sisters. First, I want to take my Habitat hat off and say to all of you, thank you for your willingness to step forward and give guidance and leadership to the community. It's a significant commitment that I'm not sure that everyone is aware of how much time, how much energy, how much thought goes into the responsibilities that each of you have. And I've had the pleasure over the last few years to observe the council in their actions and how they deliberate and how they come to the appropriate decisions. Not everyone's going to agree with them, as you may have noticed, but the appropriate decisions, because you do have your hearts and your thoughts for what's best for the community. So I'm putting my Sisters Habitat hat back on now. I was inspired to come here this evening to really came from Mr. Willett's op-ed piece that was in the Nugget this morning and his comments just now. I also highly recommend that as part of the UGB process that you require, or that you mandate a percentage of the homes be for that essential worker, that mid-tier to lower AMI household that is so critical to the vibrancy and success of Sisters. Um, it, so please do give due consideration to the percentage that you want as affordable housing. I'll add another element to that, though, in that there also has to be some adjustments for density that you incorporate into your zoning, either through a overlay like the cottage development overlay that you have for the downtown commercial zone. Because let me tell you the scenario that I'm facing right now. They just announced yesterday the OHCS, Oregon Housing and Community Services grant opportunities for affordable housing throughout the state. The maximum that, since we're classified as a rural community, we get an extra $5,000. The maximum that we can receive, for example, for a 2-bedroom house is $190,000. When I checked on available property towards the vacant land towards the end of November, the least expensive lot, residential zoned lot, was $274,000. So I'm $80,000 in the hole before I even start construction. So at $35 to $40 a square foot or more, that affordable housing developers, whether it be Sisters Habitat, whether it be Rooted Homes, be it Thistle and Nest or whomever, that is attempting to address the situation here in Sisters, one of the most effective ways that you can assist us in meeting the city's recognized need for affordable housing is to allow for greater density in your zoning or your overlays that you have. And I'll echo Mr. Willett's comments that, as I think I've said in a prior meeting before the council, there are, in my eyes and experience, some misperceptions as to what we're talking about with affordable housing. We're talking about medical laboratory personnel, CNAs and healthcare workers, grocery store staff, veterinary technicians, school bus drivers, baristas, title and escrow staff, manufacturing production workers, HVAC, repair technicians, bakers, school aides, school administrative staff, women that have escaped abusive situations or are employed in a variety of skilled occupations, chefs and servers, construction personnel, retirees on fixed income, sales staffs that are vital to our local businesses. And this is just a sampling of people that are in Sisters Habitat and Rooted and Thistle and Nest homes in the community right now. So please, as you look at expanding the UGB, please take these things into consideration. I know the council is committed to equitable housing in the community and making these opportunities available. As you expand, as you go through the UGB process, I encourage you to add these additional elements into your considerations. And I thank you for your time. And again, I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Mary Orton.
Hi, everyone. Mary Orton. I used to live in Sisters. Now I'm about 5 miles outside. I am so happy to be here tonight, not only because 3 people that I know, 3 women that I know personally just got sworn in. Over the decades, I have attended so many city council, county commission swearings in, not just because I know the people there, but frankly, because I know this is going to sound hokey, but the peaceful transfer of power is so fundamental to our way of life, to our democracy. It moves me to tears every single time. I'm so proud of all of you, and thank you all for your service. I know it's a lot of work, and the city would be so worse off without you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see no more.
Okay. So now we can invite Jeremy Austin up from Central Oregon Land Watch as a small presentation for us. Welcome, Jeremy. Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Is it on? Thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Jeremy Austin, and I'm the Wildlands and Water Program Director at Central Oregon Land Watch. And I'm here to talk to you guys tonight about a project that's moving forward in Sisters Country. And I just want to note that really I'm here on behalf of a much broader coalition, and we all thank you for the opportunity to be able to share about what we're working on here. Before I dive in and talk specifically about the project, I want to sort of set the table. Like dams in our rivers, roadways are pretty significant barriers to the movement of wildlife, both seasonal migration, but also the daily movements that are really essential to their survival. And these roads are really having a significant impact on the biodiversity here in Central Oregon, but really also across our planet. And when we look across the state of Oregon, the Oregon Department of Transportation has been collecting information on wildlife vehicle collisions for decades now. And that is the map we're seeing here, where you can see in bright red, where there's high densities of wildlife vehicle collisions, and then in green, where it's not as much of a concern. And there's certain areas that really pop across the state. You can see in bright orange and yellow and red. And in fact, Highway 20 between Bend and Subtle Lake here in Central Oregon has the highest density of wildlife vehicle collisions of any major roadway in the entire state. And Highway 20 is becoming increasingly used by motorists and approaching a average daily trip load that is, according to road ecologists, really a near complete barrier to the movement of many wildlife species. And it was this sort of backdrop that led a pretty broad coalition of folks to come together to figure out how do we solve this issue. And that was really the genesis for the Bend to Subtle Lake Wildlife Passage Initiative, whose core goal is to improve the safety of both motorists and wildlife along the 35 miles of Highway 20 between Bend and Subtle Lake. And this is, as I mentioned, a broad coalition. It's about 20 partner groups in total, including state and federal agencies, Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, Oregon State University Cascades, about 12 NGOs, and Black Butte Ranch. And it's this broad partnerships, expertise, and relationships and regulatory authority that's really essential to the success of this project. And it was about almost 3 years ago now that this group started getting together and kicking some dirt along Highway 20, and we kind of quickly realized we needed to get a little more formal. So we formed the working group, which was the partners on that last slide. We have an executive committee that really does the work behind the scenes to bring in dollars and plan out next steps. And we identified a 4-phase approach to meet our goal. Phase 1 was to complete a feasibility study, which we completed in July of 2024, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about with you all tonight. Phase 2 is moving into design and engineering, sort of the technical work for the priority crossings, but also to do more outreach about what the findings of our feasibility study, what it found. And we've been doing that in outreach presentations such as this to folks at Black Butte Ranch and Camp Sherman and other communities along the corridor. Phase 3 is then building the structures, and Phase 4 is evaluation and monitoring. And so I want to talk a little bit about the feasibility study that we just completed. It was a robust 9-month process where we hired contractors to complete this study, and they looked at, again, the 35 miles between Bend and Subtle Lake. They conducted partner interviews. We had 3 workshops to work through all the information they pulled together, such as land ownership, topography, existing infrastructure like roads and bridges that could facilitate the passage of wildlife. Things like wildlife vehicle density, as I talked about earlier, but also wildlife movement data. And there's 2 examples here, both the deer and elk movement along Highway 20 here in Central Oregon. This is just a clipping of the data that the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife has collected through GPS collaring studies. Within about 3 miles of the road, you can see where those crossings occur. But helps highlight the need and the importance of this area for the movement of deer and elk, just 2 of many species. So the feasibility study over 9 months ultimately identified 11 potential locations where wildlife crossings could be constructed on Highway 20. And those are represented by the stars here, and that's a mix of undercrossings, overcrossings, and also retrofit of existing infrastructure like bridges and culverts. Recognizing that, unfortunately, we don't have the capacity and resources to build all 11 of these out the gate, the working group went through a process to prioritize what should be the first projects that we really dedicate our attention to. And we had a decision matrix that was part of the feasibility study, but also a really robust conversation that considered where is the highest value for wildlife, where is there land ownership that would facilitate both the movement of wildlife, but also construction of these sites, where are the greatest threats to motorists traveling along this roadway here in Central Oregon. But also we wanted to address an issue just within one geography before we spread our effort out over all 35 miles. So we looked at which structures were contiguous to each other and also a high priority. And through that process and discussion, we identified 4 structures within 5 miles of each other on the base of Black Butte that would all be proposed overcrossings to facilitate the movement of a many diversity of species, but primarily deer and elk that are often crossing the roadway in this area and causing a significant risk to the traveling public. For all of the sites, including for all 11 sites, including the 4 we selected to move forward, the feasibility study really provides a robust amount of information, including conceptual design for structures. Here's 2 examples. Opinion of probable cost of what the planning, the construction, and the monitoring in the future will look like. Fencing layout. These structures don't work without fencing. The wildlife need to be directed to these crossings. And so they're a really important part both in design, but also in the public outreach. So we have this feasibility in hand now. We've been talking with folks in the community, both in Sisters, but across the state. And we've had a couple questions come up pretty frequently, including, is it cost effective? Are there other solutions to mitigate the impact of the roadway that would be cheaper and perhaps feasible? And did you consider those? And yes, we did. And there are other mitigation solutions such as signage. And we see signage across the entire state of Oregon and the West. And except for a few examples, they're largely ineffective, and they don't do anything to address the barrier effect of the roadway and traffic that repels wildlife.
I'd like to point out that the wildlife don't read the signs at all.
There hasn't been empirical evidence to show that, but that's my understanding as well. That was a joke, but yeah, no, they don't. And there is an upfront cost to constructing wildlife crossings, and it's a capital improvement project that can be spendy, but there's pretty good evidence across the West and in Oregon that they pay for themselves in pretty good time. The cost of medical expenses, of property damage, and the value of these animals add up pretty quickly, especially when you have 350 to 600 deer and elk hit just on this 35-mile corridor each year. Highway 97 is the only examples we have in the state where structures have been built, and those structures are estimated to pay for themselves in about 10 years' time. Another question we often get is how effective are they? And again, looking at Highway 97, just in the first 2 years after construction, wildlife vehicle collisions were reduced by 90%. OSU has been monitoring those structures for several years now and has found that 73% of the deer that approach these structures and 93% of the elk are successfully actually using the structure to get to the other side. So they're effective at both reducing the risk to motorists, but also for passing wildlife safely across the roadway. And Oregon really lags far behind our Western state counterparts in implementing dedicated wildlife crossing structures. And so the efficacy of these structures has really been proven more by our Western state counterparts, than here in Oregon. But we have a lot to do to catch up. We've got 5 of these structures. Places like California and Utah have more than 100. But thankfully, this is a really great opportunity, a great time to be working on this. We've had a lot of support both at the state and federal level in the passage of funding, but also policy to support wildlife crossing initiatives like the one we have here in Central Oregon. And really exciting development is that there's a sister project in Southern Oregon on I-5 that was just recently awarded $30 million from the federal government to move these projects forward, really demonstrating to the state legislature especially how a little bit of money here in the state can bring home really large sums of funding to make these projects a reality. So I wanted to come here today to share with the council the project that we're working on and open up dialogue with those in the community to help move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment. I agree. I mean, there's one that I cross over regularly. We'll go back and forth to the coast on that new stretch of highway outside Eddyville, but that's the only one I was aware of in the state. I've spent quite a bit of time up in Canada along the Rockies between Banff and Jasper, and that's a very heavily traveled road. They put wildlife crossings in there 10 or 12 years ago, I think, and vehicle collisions have gone down significantly. Hitting a large elk is never much fun, either for the elk or for the driver of the car. They also have moose. I'm from Maine. I know what happens when you hit a moose, they come in through the windshield. And it's generally a fatality both for the moose and the driver. So this is something that works. They have overpasses up there. They're vegetated and it looks just like a hill. They walk across it all day long. And I'm in favor of it if we can figure out a way to do it. But it sure would be nice not to have to walk down some of the areas where our friends at MoDOT take the carcasses of the animals that have been killed and leave them off in the woods for scavengers and stuff to clean up. And there's a pretty significant pile of bones in some parts around here.
And I want, because this isn't visitor comment, or is it okay that we're discussing and commenting?
Yeah.
I think right now, okay. I know it's in place of the workshop. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Are there other examples of such a concentration in one place here in the state? Or is this kind of we're kind of, getting ahead of the curve for our area?
Just a clarifying question, a concentration in vehicle collisions or in
No, no, the
structures?
number of ones that we're considering putting in 4, right? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. There's only really 5 structures in the state that were specifically built for wildlife. And so, no, we don't have that. And it was really a sort of a lesson learned from some of the work on Highway 97, which was spread out over many miles. And I think the opportunity to try to solve one of these, wildlife vehicle collisions within a specific geography before spreading out further was a key takeaway. And so other states do have close proximity structures, and some of the literature on creating permeability across roadways for wildlife shows that placing a structure every 1 to 2 miles is really optimum in removing the barrier of the roadway for wildlife that are trying to move.
Okay. I'd like to say to the rest of council, if we decide to, help in whatever way we can, it's not really in our jurisdiction in the sense of where these crossings are, but I'd love to get the logo up there, our logo, and be a partner in this if we decide that we are going to, kind of support the effort. I don't know what happens after that, but it'd be nice to show that the City of Sisters cares about the transportation in our area and the wildlife and, helping out with these crossings in whatever way we can. I don't know.
Yeah. What is it that we might be able to offer you?
I'm not here to really ask anything of the council other than to provide an update. Absolutely, the coalition would love the support of the City of Sisters as we move forward. We have some pretty significant fundraising goals ahead, and the more partners we have on board, I think the stronger our asks will be.
Yeah. Well, and I think just having the logo sometimes is a step, right? So just a thought.
I had a question, Jeremy, related to the building of the 4 crossovers. Would those be done simultaneously?
It's a great question. It really will depend on the funding we're able to generate. The goal is, yes, to build them all 4 at the same time and the associated fencing.
Is there any traffic interruption during that building? There's a major thoroughfare, especially with our folk festival, our quilt show and so forth. We would want to try to coordinate if we could to avoid any traffic interruptions during those key times.
Yeah, great question. And first, we'd welcome, any thoughts and insights on that. There would be construction down to 1 lane likely at key moments of construction. ODOT is a part of our working group and executive committee, very interested in sort of how to manage traffic flows during construction. So I think off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly sort of the options that we've considered, but I believe it is a shoulder season type project where they try to do sort of a couple key closure periods that are outside of some of the major high traffic volume times of the year. But we would welcome the input of the council as the project moves forward.
Is it a safe assumption that because these are not designed to handle the weight and mass of vehicular traffic, that they're constructed to a different standard than perhaps a highway bridge would be, and therefore construction might move forward a little bit faster than we might be used to? We typically see an overpass on a working highway.
As somebody with a background in wildlife biology and currently working for a nonprofit, my best answer would be that it is built to not the same standard as vehicular traffic, but ODOT wants to build something that can withstand something like a significant earthquake or other events. So they are built to a pretty high standard. But I believe you're correct. They would not be to the same specs as, say, something that would have high truck volume driving over it.
Is the choice of overpasses relegated by the, what's best for the wildlife or geography or cost?
Great question, and it's really a combination of a couple of factors that you cited. There's pretty good literature to show that many species don't like to go into a dark tunnel. It's not a very common situation you would encounter in nature, and so overcrossings are generally preferred by a broader diversity of species. Elk is one of those species that tend to favor overcrossings, and this specific geography at the base of Black Butte, there's great spatial data from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife showing existing calling herds sort of ping-ponging across that section of 5 miles right at the base, going on their way from sort of the Grandview area over to Mount Washington. And so facilitating the passage with overcrossings for elk in that area was a key consideration. It's also topography. It'd be really hard to do an undercrossing at the toe slope of Black Butte.
Quick question. I know this is probably not an appropriate question given the funding challenges for ODOT, but has there been conversations with ODOT about doing other safety improvements at the same time, like raised medians and, other barriers and things like that? We had another fatality on the highway, not in the exact portion where the crossings are proposed, but it is, always on people's minds, high-speed traffic, 2 lanes on a highway. Is that part of it? If there was funding that was generated from the state, we'll be looking at other safety improvements?
It has not been a specific topic of conversation because it's not part of the current STIP to do any of those projects for ODOT along that section of Highway 20. However, if the funding was available to do those types of projects, I think our coalition generally would be very interested in having that conversation around how and whether, where those types of elements could be incorporated.
I will say that, as Michael pointed out that, this is outside of our jurisdiction. However, the amount of traffic, going through our community is a very acute problem, and we know that it's not going to get better. We have 3 highways from the valley funneling into our small community. So, this is why we've taken on, building the project, formerly known as the East Portal, which is a, transit center, partially knowing that we're a small town, we're a small footprint, but anything we can do to reduce traffic, is a win for everybody. And hopefully one of the customers of that facility will be, bus service to the valley, being able to reduce cars. So that's what we've been kind of working on our end, in our small town and our small staff and council here, because it's very palpable. The traffic situation, and I am concerned that we're not doing enough as a community and a state to work on long-term solutions to that. Those highways can't keep having more and more vehicles on them. There's just going to be a capacity issue at some point. They weren't built for what they're being used for now. So. Yeah, just wanted to kind of point that out, that this has definitely been, on our minds in one factor or another. And, I think anything we can do to kind of help safety and wildlife, I think, I want to speak for everybody, but I think that is something that we could get behind.
Well, I think that I like Michael's concept, we don't want to crash the party. We've got your nice little logo up here, and we added another one, and it might upset the balance. But, if having City of Sisters up in there where you have Black Butte Ranch and Warm Springs and that sort of a thing would be helpful just in going after funding and going after showing that there is widespread agreement that this is a necessary thing to do, not just for the safety of the animals, which is important, but also for the safety of the motoring traffic. When you hit a large animal, it can lead to a head-on collision in another direction, it can lead to significant injury and property damage all the way around. So it's,
Even if there isn't, injuries, it could close down
Yeah.
the highway.
yes,
which is
close
a
down the highway, which sometimes does
huge,
happen.
huge
So,
issue, yeah.
I don't know what process there would be, but I like what I heard from you, Michael, and I think that we ought to look very carefully at whether or not we can, if we can include our logo in here and how we would go about that. Might not come with a lot of cash, 'cause we don't have one.
Your support would be greatly appreciated. And so I don't know, there's no process on our end really, in the sense that it's a pretty open doors coalition. And so very much would welcome the support of the city if that was something that you all decided was appropriate.
Well, it's up to us, right?
Get
We'll
like a-
talk about it
yeah.
down the road.
Great.
And down the road might be later tonight. So, yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions? No, we're good. All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Likewise, thank you for your time.
Next on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, you really gotta like,
You gotta jump in
you
there.
gotta jump in. I know.
Well,
Gotta be
the-
aggressive.
The consent agenda included minutes for meetings that
Yeah.
we were not present at.
Yeah.
That's
It
true.
felt a little
Yeah.
awkward there.
All right, we're on to other business. No motions tonight. So first up is, we always get this wrong. Associate planner? Principal planner. Oh, you're principal planner now. Sorry. Principal planner.
Not the assistant principal anymore.
Just get
Mark.
text just to make sure.
We're going to be talking about our defensible space regulations that we've been working on so hard.
Get a little setup here. Before we get started.
Well, the timing of this is very good, very sad. But even in January, there's no season to not talk about wildfire in the West anymore.
California is
Yeah.
looking horrible. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lived there and never saw anything like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Letts. For the record, Matthew Martin, Principal Planner, City of Sisters. Good evening, counselors. Yes, it's not lost on me that we're having this conversation tonight as wildfires continue to rage across the West and with incredible intensity in Southern California. So now's the time and an opportunity to explore measures to make our community a bit more safer and a bit more resilient in the event of a wildfire. And so tonight, my goal is to offer an update of our process of developing code provisions that provide defensible space around new development here in the City of Sisters, and provide some background on how we got here, updates on new information that's been incorporated into our draft amendments, and then for the sake of new counselors and those public in the audience, either here in person or online, give a brief overview of the package of amendments, because the more we discuss it and get the word out, the better understanding we have of what the details of the amendments are. My intent with these oral comments in my presentation is in support of the staff report that was submitted and included in your packet for tonight. I welcome any questions or comments throughout, so let me know. So we've met on multiple occasions. First, the introduction of defensible space and the values and the concepts that go into providing that space around structures to reduce the risk of ignition of a structure and intensity of fire through fuels management as a buffer around structures. We did meet last autumn, both with City Council as well as Planning Commission, to provide a introduction of some draft amendments that staff prepared based on industry standards that we found with the City of Ashland in Oregon, as well as those drafted by the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office in conjunction with Senate Bill 762. And that was an initial effort to put these provisions into code, into criteria to give you an idea of what it looks like and get your initial input. And the recommendations that came out of those workshops was one, a unanimous recommendation to increase or require roofing materials on structures to be Class A. That's the highest standard of fire resistance for roofing material. That's a change from the original draft, which we'll touch on a bit later. The second was to look at other industry resources that are out there. In particular, looking into the Insurance Institute's business and home safety research and recommendations that they've put forward through their efforts to study the fire behavior and improve structure resiliency. And then also look at the updated OSU Extension Service fire resistant landscaping plant guide, updated most recently in 2023. So a new set of evaluation of those species and an opportunity to have a most current and up-to-date list. And we'll touch on, again, the details of that research moving forward. Again, IBHS is known to be a leader in studying fire behavior and in proximity to structures and state-of-the-art facilities in identifying kind of how fire behaves and what building practices as well as other property management can go into the resiliency of a property. So in evaluating that research, I zeroed in on a document they produced called Wildland Fire and Embers and Flames, Home Mitigation That Matters. Included in there was evaluation of a variety of standards and those recommendations. Just to touch on those that I identified that are applicable or have interface with defensible space. The first is fuel management within the first 5 feet of a structure or building. They came out very strongly that no vegetation or other combustible materials should be within that first 5 feet adjacent to a structure. So that means, again, no combustibles. We're looking at hardscape and other materials that may not ignite as readily as other vegetation or combustibles. I'll note that we did incorporate that standard into the draft amendments for consideration. I guess I'll pause here for the good of the order that tonight would be conducted as part of a workshop, but given those schedule changes, we're having more of a workshop format here in the regular meeting. I don't want this to be confused as a public hearing for those in the public or a formal recommendation by staff or city council, but offering some refined standards. The second being those areas, fuel management beyond that initial 5-foot ignition zone is looking at, they found that the research was not complete and that further research needed to be conducted, but what they found that good practice was creating that spacing between trees and crowns of groups of trees, and that magic number that they've identified is 10 feet. And that also is for distance from chimney openings or outlets to provide that distance from not only the structure spacing between trees, but also those outlets from chimneys. They looked at accessory structures and outbuildings and found that the fire risk is the same for those structures, and that if that structure were to ignite, then the adjacent and nearby vegetation will create a further run of that fire and then potentially into more high-value structures or onto other properties. So to apply the same standards across to all structures. And I'll note that the fuel management beyond the 5 feet and applying the standards to accessory structures and outbuildings were comparable or the same as what were in the original draft that we offered to you at the previous workshop. The last that we identified in that report was fences beyond the 5 foot of a building. And the 5 foot is that they're looking at no combustibles within that initial 5 feet. So any fencing that may be attached to a structure, that would need to be a non-combustible material, metal or other similar construction. But if you have a fence beyond the 5 feet, it can be wood and still provide a safe or safer environment. But this touched on a scenario where you have parallel fencing that is in close proximity to each other. You may have a situation where different property owners build their own fence and have some distance between those fences. But in particular, if those fences are within 3 feet, they identified that that was a tricky scenario where flammable materials like leaves, other tree branches, other materials can collect within those that separation, that gap, and that either goes overlooked or unmaintained, creating a potentially intense scenario and opportunity for fire to settle in and ignite within there, and then again create a more hazardous environment. And do we see that a lot here in Sisters? I don't know that I've identified one in my observations, but I personally did have one at my own property where 2 adjacent fences were constructed, and only once the second fence was removed that we reduced that collection of debris that was there. So I did not incorporate this last fencing recommendation into our code because is that a scenario that we see as certainly the risk is there and a hazard, but is that a scenario we see often in this community or something to address in our development code? So I present that to the council for consideration, for inclusion. So moving to the OSU extension plant list. Again, this was a document produced in 2023, provides the most recent and locational relevant information for fire resistant and drought tolerant plants here in the region. I cross-referenced our original prohibited flammable plant list that was presented and found that 2 species that were on that prohibited list are actually included in this fire-resistant plant guide. So that identifies how understanding of plants or environmental consideration or ecosystem considerations allow for the safe use of those plants, those being lavender and ceanothus. So any update to the flammable plant list for consideration would exclude those 2 species.
Is that within the 5 feet? I'm sorry.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
You beat me to it.
Sorry.
Fast enough. I will
Try and do better.
So we could jump to the standards, but the answer is no. As considered and as drafted, there'd be no vegetation, no combustibles within the initial 5 feet,
But
even fire-resistant plant materials.
that was my question. So, but we're including the fire resistant listing.
And that's
but we're not
for,
allowing the fire resistant plants up next to the building. So we have to think about how we word that in the final
sure.
document that we put forward. If that's indeed what this council decides and planning commission decides needs to be done.
Yeah, so the,
I mean, I know my house has violated almost everything you've done so far, especially my neighbor's yard, because it kind of comes into mind, but that's another story.
we recognize that this entire process is a
Rototiller next week. Sorry, bud.
educational opportunity for staff, council, and the community.
So are there other communities that have implemented this, the no vegetation and combustibles within 5 feet?
I have not identified a community that's gone that far. No, Ashland provided an opportunity for fire-resistant vegetation within the initial 5 feet. And the different, acknowledging to your point, Councilor Ross, that there are other provisions beyond the 5 feet, but within the 30-foot secondary defensible space where we do look at flammable plants and or conversely, fire-resistant plants that can be added or maintained.
And are we thinking there'll be kind of 2 lists? I mean, there'll be, hopefully like a prohibited plant list, which may or may not be kind of codified, but, and then a list of just fire resistant plants, which is just more of a nice to know, or, is that kind of the idea to have?
So we contemplated adopting instead of going with the prohibited list, which feels heavy-handed, with that terminology, perhaps you have a better term, and go with a approved plant list. But in reviewing the document and the extent of the species that are found to be fire resistant, that would be extensive and perhaps challenging. Now, is there an opportunity to adopt this for reference, this particular document as a reference? So I'm open to those considerations, but we certainly can point folks in the right direction as to what are known to be fire-resistant species as
But that's
described
not
in the
decision
document.
We need to make tonight. This will be further down the road. We can kind of look at how this comes together and where the most appropriate way to address that might be within this.
Correct, yeah, not looking for a direction on that.
But that's available to do a reference within our code to an outside document? Or
Oh.
how would that look?
So that leads back to the challenge of adopting a list or an outside document that could be fluid or ultimately become out of date. This is opportunity to touch on that. You know, looking at the city of Ashland as a guide, they don't adopt the prohibited plant list into their development code, but rather they adopt it by resolution and they review it on an annual basis. So that's a chance to review it, confer with the experts and the most accurate and available information and update annually as needed. And would take an action by city council and not a text amendment to the development code.
We don't have legal counsel. Is that something we need to think about? I mean, just as a process?
I think, I mean, for your flexibility and doing annual reviews and be able to look at the plant, I mean, because these things will evolve, right?
Sure.
I mean, as new data, new science comes out about it. I think it's worth considering doing it that way rather than, you can adopt references into your code outside, you know, it's like the, trip generation manual and things like that we do. But generally those are industry-wide sort of approved, standards that we know that are updated, on a periodic basis at least. You do run the risk of having obscure and, outdated materials that are referenced in your code if you do it that way. And if you do it by ordinance too, you have to go through a more arduous process, right, to adopt that.
Well, certainly, given the proliferation of new plant, architectural plant species that are popping up almost daily as places like OSU and other places like that work to, whether it's a new species of hazelnut tree or whether it's a garden flower that goes in out front, there's new ones all the time. And so these lists probably do need to be somewhat flexible, because I think over a 2 or 3 year period of time, there could be 100, 150, 200 new species or adaptations of other species of plants that come in that change the flammability characteristic of that particular daisy or lavender plant or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Would it be appropriate if the Urban Forestry Board wanted it, if we kind of put that tax on them to maybe look at the list and, I don't know. I've never been on the Urban Forestry Board,
Well,
so you'll have to,
They
somebody will have to tell me.
They have been having a very extensive list of trees that are approved or not approved that has been put before us. Nothing's been adopted there yet, so it would be interesting to kind of have that discussion potentially with Scott, and also to see if that's the appropriate place. But it may be that that's somewhere that would look, but they're really focusing more on tree species and so I don't know.
We also have some very important fire district people here that might.
Yeah. I think they're the people that really should be telling us what to do.
Yeah, right? Help us out.
Yeah, and again, looking at the examples, City of Ashland has a dedicated, and I don't have the name of it, but a dedicated committee that evaluates these standards, has been charged with approving that prohibited flammable plant list on an annual basis. That's a new committee that provides or brings in the expertise from the fire district, the biologists associated with understanding of those the plant behavior and characteristics behavior.
Because I think, in the end, we're going to look very hard and listen very carefully to our associates sitting in the middle of the room, they're the ones that are the experts on it. And, you've heard the ding, but I did that, another fire broke on Hollywood Hills, so they got another one they're working on now down there. So it's not good.
So that's kind of the update on the revisions and other discussions or other research that we were charged to staff to bring back some more information on. So I did want to take this opportunity again to kind of give an overview of the draft standards, both touching on where the general framework, but also some of the changes that have been incorporated since we last spoke. So want to start with the applicability. These standards would apply citywide. So not distinguishing between different regions of the community or following the pattern of the Oregon statewide wildfire risk map, or excuse me, hazard map, that has differing classifications of hazards within the city limits. Council has provided that direction that we have continuity throughout our city limits and that the standards should apply citywide. These standards would apply to new development, so not existing built environments, but rather those that are new construction of buildings or structures, so new buildings or structures, or additions to buildings or structures that exceed 200 square feet of lot coverage. So that's additions, new decks, new square footage of the structure.
So if I built a 212 square foot deck on my house, this would then apply to the entire property.
It would apply to,
Just curious.
I mean, that's a great question. Is distinguishing if it's applicable just to that addition area or the entirety of the structure.
I know with certain things, when you do certain kinds of additions to the property, you have to bring other things up to code. And in some cases you don't. So I think that's something that needs to be a point of clarity as we move forward. I mean, I realize it's not the electrical code, it's not the plumbing code, but, I think that, we need to be clear and direct as to what we think is important. And so, just was a thought. We may have a lot of 199 square foot decks out there, but, it just, I just think we need to think about what does that mean? Does it just apply to the addition or does it apply to the entire property? And if it does, then how long does that person have to get that property in compliance, given that it may be fairly well developed and fairly mature?
You're kind of hitting in my wheelhouse of my professional, what I do. So a lot of places such as Bend and other jurisdictions where if you do a significant addition of 25% or more is generally kind of the somewhat standard area that everything else has to come with it. So it's not a number, it's just a percentage, and that might be something we might want to consider.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe. We'll just have to look at it as a group, right? So
Definitely want this to be as easy for users as possible and not confuse them. So yeah, anything we can clean up like that would be really helpful.
And city personnel too. You don't let staff have to do algebra to do.
Do planners know how to do algebra?
Well,
yes.
we want to respect their time as well and costs. So.
I welcome that discussion, or at least some direction. How you're kind of leaning, if you trigger the defensible space standards, should we be looking at applying those to the entirety of the structure or just that portion that's being added? And staff's perspective is that it having continuity, that if you're triggering these standards, that we're looking at the entirety of the site. Because if the value of a dispensable space for a portion of the structure is lost when it's not
Well, that
the
was
entirety.
going through the back of my mind as well. I mean, I can't see why we would want to try to carve the property into chunks of safe, not safe, somewhat safe, maybe safe, safe on a day when there's no wind. I mean, I think that we need to, what we choose as the line to cross, as Councilor Frieden has just suggested, is critical, and we'll look to your expertise in that as well. I think the percentage is probably I'd want to keep it sort of in line with how we do other code improvements that do trigger
Okay.
improvements within.
I mean, I think we want a trigger.
Yes.
We just have to figure out what that
That's
is.
exactly right. Thank you.
I think
Well
that
said.
that's, at some point you do enough work around a house, an addition or a major, major work. If you're doing more than a certain amount, whether it's 25% or it's a square footage or whatever, I think that at some point, it's a point of no return, right? It's a little tiny deck and it's 10 by 10, you don't want to make a $15,000 project, a $100,000 project. But if you're already spending 75,000 and you're doing this big addition, getting the rest of it up to snuff is just kind of part of the deal. So I think we just have to be smart about it and think about it and figure out what that trigger is. I don't know. I can't tell you today, and I wouldn't know wouldn't even try tonight. I just think we want to say at some point, if you do enough work on your property, this is pretty similar in other jurisdictions for other reasons. Sometimes, such as in Bend, if you do enough work on your house, you have to do the sidewalks and you have to do curbs and things like that to bring up your property to match anything else that's within 500 or 600 feet. So that's how you get sidewalks built without spending as much money on it. If someone's doing something major, they have to connect everything together. So, and I think that we probably need some kind of trigger. We just have to figure out what that is my thought.
Yeah, I mean, this brings a point up that you're talking about new development as you see the applicability, right? So as we're working through a UGB process, the majority of the town is built out, right? So, these standards are being applied to new development, new subdivisions, empty lots that are going to be built, right? They're going to have these new standards applied. But how do you capture the rest of the town that, something as simple as somebody has a landscaper come in to redesign their landscape? Well, how do they know about the new rules? And this is something that we have to think about. How do we apply these standards then to already the built environment? Is it through, tree permits and things like that, where there's a landscape review plan? Not to open another whole Pandora's box, but, we're starting to veer into the kind of the territory of, development that's occurring on already developed lots, and trying to capture that so that our existing built environment can become more safe and defensible with these standards. So it probably is wise to have some level, some threshold that then, the planners know, okay, you're putting in a deck that's 200 square feet. That does mean you have the added cost now. You have to take out all your vegetation within 5 feet. It's going to be a challenge for staff to kind of navigate that. There's the cost to homeowners that will be, some sticker shock if they come in and realize that, I'm just adding on a room to my garage and now I have to redo my entire landscaping and take out my fence and but you're making your house more fire resistant. But these are the ways that you can make your town more safe, is applying these standards so that they can help your existing already developed town.
Where it's going to get interesting is when we have a vacant lot in the city somewhere that abuts fully developed properties. That new property gets built out to these standards, and yet the vegetation on the surrounding property violates the standards because how it intrudes into the lot, overhang of branches and things like that. It's going to be an interesting process. And
Some of the larger lots that have a lot of, vegetation and, things that would not comply that they haven't thought about could be a significant cost. So one thing that we could do is look at what those other thresholds are that, other cities use or that we already have in our code that pre-exists, so that we're being pretty consistent.
we're not inventing a new wheel here.
Right. Yeah, so it's another, they may already know as through the site plan review process, so they'll have other requirements, and this would just be another one that is part of that process that's on the check boxes.
Especially when we hear about, increasing density as we look at what we're going to do. What your neighbor does impact what happens to your home when that sort of an event occurs. So that's why those houses have to be built in such a way that we don't get that house to house spread, or at least we make it darn difficult for it to happen.
Yeah, I just think it's important that we be smart about it, not be too onerous one way, but not too lenient the other. So what is that? I don't know.
And again, remembering this is kind of a phased process because this is defensible space. So this is landscaping on new development. There's also, home hardening, structure, that discussion is coming, in new development code, but, there's an opportunity to also put stuff in municipal code as well. And, so just kind of reminding everybody, this is kind of phase one of a few. But yeah, if, the Venn diagram of those overlapping where they can is not a bad thing. Capture as many people as possible, so.
Well, we'll certainly look at other provisions of our code where those thresholds are and see if we can match those or offer some examples for consideration. Do want to note that obviously, as we talk about the scenarios where we have a new development and an existing built environment next door, clearly they're in a smaller lotting pattern. We may have a scenario where structures are within the 30-foot secondary buffer. We're only expecting a property owner or developer to modify and comply with those that they have control of. So it's not something that we're looking you to look to your neighbor to do some vegetation clearing. Certainly you can be neighborly, but it's also wouldn't be a denial scenario because you cannot provide that additional 30, but just those compliance to the extent you can on the property you control. And just want to note that there's a plan that we're looking for, a fire prevention and control plan for those larger developments, subdivisions, master plans, site plans. These are larger, typically vacant lots where the development is going to encompass the entirety of potentially acres and acreage. So we're looking at a more robust, detailed plan for that entire environment. So that would be included for those larger developments, not a requirement of a construction of an individual single-family dwelling on a lot. That plan wouldn't be required, but we'd be looking for compliance with the defensible space standards as part of the building permit review process. So it will be reviewed, but not requiring this larger plan. Did want to touch on, again, the updated prohibited plant list, and just noting the species that were identified originally and the exclusion of the two that were found on the fire-resistant plant list.
There was one thing in here in the section where you were, the code amendments draft, just a little bit of definition problem, kind of using the word fire resistant materials versus fireproof, because they are two different things. I think under the fire and ignition resistant materials, the materials or assemblies that will not ignite and burn. And to me, that would be fireproof. And I don't think anything, everything will burn if you put enough gasoline on it. So has been my experience as a firefighter, not for a hobby. Clarify that. So just wanted to kind of maybe smooth that out. Excuse me, smooth that out. I think will not ignite and burn is a little, might not be the right terminology.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I making sense there?
Yep. And we don't want to be as definitive that will not or proof, but rather resistant or so. Yeah, we can refine that for sure.
Thank you.
That'll make Garrett happy too, I think.
Okay, so to kind of try to efficiently work our way through the kind of the scope of the standards, it does come into, again, we've identified two rings or buffers around structures, that being that initial zone or ignition zone within 5 feet, a secondary buffer of out to 30 feet. And then when we're talking about fuels and vegetation management, it's whether those species are those identified as flammable species or fire-resistant species, and then some special consideration for significant trees, which would allow for the preservation of significant trees within these areas. If they're significant by definition is 8 inches DBH. So keeping that's kind of an orientation of how the code is structured. So In all instances, we're looking for removal of all that dead or dying vegetation on the site. So here's an opportunity to clear out that material that is ripe tinder that has limited value on the property. So looking to have that removed as part of the development. So looking at that initial 5 feet around the structure and including the building and decks would be under that recommendation of the IBHS is to remove all vegetation within that 5 feet. So that's any species except for those significant trees. This would mean fire-resistant materials, hardscape, others that are not combustible, so not bark mulch or other features, even ground covers. And that fences within this initial area, as I originally touched on, cannot be combustible materials, cannot be wood where it conjunctions with the structure itself, but rather some type of metal or other more fire-resistant material, because that fire, if it ignites the fence, can run and make its way to the structure like a wick of a candle. And we'll note that we have received some initial kind of informal comments relative to the draft amendments, and there is concern, just from an aesthetic and a compliance that if you have smaller lots and we have our minimum setback in many zones is 5 feet, that what we're talking about is hardscape, lot line to lot line. And is that an aesthetic or a development interest that meets the interests of the community? So I think that's something to consider. And also, if initial development comes in compliance, there is that challenge of continued compliance and enforcement, that if the subsequent property owners, while the code says they're responsible for maintaining these areas, that they may not be aware. That's educational opportunity, but also that they may just be take it upon themselves to put in species that create an additional hazard and crosses off or removes that compliance and that mitigation that was originally provided.
And I have just one comment on the section 3.7.100 or 200, excuse me. On subsection 6A, you have areas where shrubs which will be removed include a description of the species, size, diameter, height at DBH ? And I would say, as a person who sits in on the urban forestry board meetings, I take the question mark out. Everything else is DBH. So I think I'm not sure why that was put in that way, but certainly we want to be consistent in how we determine measurements.
Absolutely. Question mark was a carryover of the use of track changes in drafting these documents. So you get some artifacts that as it moves from one computer to the next. So yeah, we'll make that distinction. Okay, moving into that second buffer, that does include some elements within that initial 5 feet, but we're looking at the entirety of 30 feet around the building. We're looking for no new plantings of those flammable species. So even within the 30 feet, you can retain those existing flammable species as long as they're maintained properly, but we don't want to see new plantings. And then for the existing listed flammable trees, we're back to considering that 10-foot spacing of canopy from tree to tree. And there are considerations in the code that if you have a small cluster or grove of trees, that can be viewed as one tree canopy when creating the spacing between the trees. So the idea of creating this 10-foot of spacing is that it reduces the risk of canopy fire and jumping from one tree to the next and running across the environment. And then when we're in proximity to the structure itself, we're looking for a 10-foot clearance from any chimney openings, both on the horizontal as well as the vertical. On vertical, we're looking for no vegetation above the chimney outlet for obvious kind of fire risk concerns. And then spacing from any walls or exterior projections of the building of 10 feet. So we're creating a buffer around these structures that limits the encroachment of limbs and other vegetation on the trees. Not as particularly concerned with the trunk of trees. So again, we're back to allowing significant trees to be within this area. That's okay. I think that's a trade-off in allowing and providing a mature tree canopy in a community, but it's been determined that and maybe experts on the council that the trunk of the tree is not nearly as flammable as the foliage and the branches, especially as they continue to die off and need that continued maintenance. And then lastly, limbing up the tree from the ground up, providing that clearance to reduce the risk of ground fires reaching up into the tree and the tree canopy, and then we have a canopy fire situation. Okay, similar to the flammable trees, fire-resistant trees, we're looking for some clearance from the chimney outlets, and that there's at least some separation from the structures, and not that it's laying against the structure itself. It doesn't require the 10 feet of separation, but rather just some separation. And from shrubs, we're looking for clearance of 5 feet from buildings. That's flammable shrubs. And then a spacing between the shrubs themselves, so that again, we're not getting run between shrubs and onto other more flammable environments or the structure itself. And then the importance of maintaining ladder fuels or that understory that can burn, and if the taller it is, the more intense that and the more extensive the flame length can be. So if you're mowing or limbing those that understory of grasses or shrubs, then it's not going to have that potential of reaching up into the trees and running or creating an ignition source for structures nearby. So looking to maintain that overall height of that understory to be limited, if not just removed. And lastly, other within the code that aren't those fuel or vegetation management, but rather the increase or the requirement that roofing material is a Class A, most fire resistant. And then just noting that there may be scenarios where there are conditions that these defensible space standards could be accepted or waived under particular conditions. That could be the actual natural environment on the property, or in particular the building materials that are used. They could be, Mayor Letts mentioned the building hardening and materials that could be used to make a structure more fire resistant. If a structure uses those materials, there may be an opportunity to say, yeah, there could be some relief from these defensible space standards. So those will be considered on a case-by-case basis and evaluated, and we'll look to our expert partners at the fire district for, no here with any exceptions, but throughout the code, there's consultation and some decision-making authority that's incorporated and given or granted to the fire district. So there's important collaboration with the district through implementation of these standards.
So they are the fire code official.
They are the fire code official. And then quickly, just want to note that from the original draft into what you have before you, staff has taken a deeper dive into looking at how the new code provisions are structured and how it matches with how our codes are structured, terminology used, et cetera. So we've touched on various sections of the draft amendments and made some revisions. Not substantive in its extent, but those are those noted with strike through and underline in the packet today. And then lastly, we're looking to tie this in with the entirety of our development code. So there are some minor changes in the various chapters throughout the code. Most of these are just pointing back to the applicability and making reference to, we're going to have a new code section that you're going to need to be looking at when you're developing a property. So
will this code, most of these are already built out, so I guess it's really kind of not important, but I'm guessing that if a new construction were going on in one of these developments with strict HOA rules related to vegetation, that this would trump the HOA rules.
Correct.
Thank you.
Right, any other questions or comments?
I have, just for clarification on existing code here under 37300. All standing, dead, and dying vegetation shall be removed from the property except when considered ecologically beneficial. Do you have an example? What? dead-
Yeah. I think that would be any wildlife habitat scenarios where a dead snag was being used by birds or other wildlife as habitat.
Thank you.
That's one scenario. There could be others. Certainly are others. So in that scenario, we'd be looking for a valid argument, and then may need some expert arguments by a biologist if it really is a question, if they're remaining question.
Trying to keep the flickers from using your drain pipes as a hollow running sound.
Yeah, however, a dead snag can candle out and be a very good source of embers too. So that's the flip side of that, unfortunately. Okay,
So that's the extent of my comments. Thank you for your time tonight. I do have a couple of notes and homework to do. Certainly carry it forward. If there's interest in another work session to incorporate these standards, then I'm certainly happy to come back with making some final tweaks before we move forward with a formal review process. Happy to do that.
yeah, and everybody's always welcome to message Matt as well with any questions that come up, bubble up later on, or, so.
And for the benefit of our audience, like I said, normally this would have been workshopped and we'd have had a little more opportunity to have discussion back and forth. So I appreciate everybody's tolerance while we do this in the middle of the regular meeting.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And not only from counselors, but if the public are interested in discussing or have questions or have some comments on what we've presented to date, welcome that input in those conversations.
And there's M&Ms outside of Matt's office. So
Oh, well, okay, I'll be in tomorrow.
Stop by anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Next up is discussion of our committee appointments. This is something we usually do every other year when we bring on new counselors after an election. The council has seats or commitments to local and regional committees, 12 of them here. That's kind of the minimum number that we have. So people want us to get involved locally and regionally and want to hear what we have to say. These commitments are in addition to, our regular meeting schedule. However, lots of great opportunities to work with our partners locally and throughout the region, and even at the state level. So we all have a list of these, and I know that we've all, chatted amongst ourselves. I think everybody might have some preferences of ones that they like or not like to do. Maybe not say not, maybe don't say the ones you don't want to do.
yeah, and we had some discussions, and some of them have been a little while ago, and I might have some different
Sure.
thoughts now too. So
Yeah, so I just felt like this would be an open discussion.
that's great.
Yeah, we can go in order. And if we need to circle back, if, we get to the end and somebody feels they're suddenly overcommitted, we can do that. A lot of these committees, some of them require an alternate as well. And some of them are just really nice to have an alternate, because we know that we're not going to be able to make every meeting. We've all got lives and other commitments. So, but a lot of these boards, especially that need quorums, I've definitely been in meetings where quorums have been not met, and that's been a huge issue. And they kind of really push you guys have alternates, please send them. So.
Well, and we've had counselors in the past that really helped out identifying groups underutilized, such as City Club, so we need to try and keep all those in mind too. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just go in order here. Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council. This meets monthly, first Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30 PM. They do serve dinner, if that's important to anybody. Obviously, a regional committee, we pay into kind of not necessarily a membership, but, we do financially have a commitment to COIC, and we do have a seat on their board. And yeah, a really great committee. They do all the things in Central Oregon. So yeah, is there anybody that has a strong interest in being part of that?
Who was that person?
Our esteemed reporter in the
Thank you.
audience.
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah.
so it is wide open, and Counselor Ross was the alternate.
You know, I'm happy to do it. I am not a fan of evening meetings. I don't do well with evening meetings.
Okay.
My family doesn't do well with evening meetings. I grumble after evening meetings, but I will do it if no one else is interested in it. If someone else is interested in it, speak right up and I will happily back away. It's an important one.
Yeah.
I mean, I
It
kind of,
really
I
is.
kind of feel the same. I was on it before Counselor Cobb, and I really enjoyed it. It's very educational. You get to meet people, commissioners and counselors and stuff from all over the Tri-County area. So lots of benefits to it. The timing of it wasn't awesome for me, being on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
I have a little more
Carries.
flexibility on that than you do because I
Right,
don't have
right.
a child who's in school who may have a Friday holiday. Yeah. So,
Everybody's jumping at it.
I'd be willing to be the alternate for that.
Okay.
all right, I'll take it. Unless you really desperately would like to have it.
Well,
Or not even if
I
you wouldn't
was
like it,
just,
maybe if you just
well,
don't
I-
have it, not even
We can
desperately.
we can circle back to if.
Yeah, that
I-
might be the thing too.
I had just in the interest of time, if maybe, we should, send to Jennifer our preferences. And then we come back, no? And we see if we
Do it
filled it
here
out.
and kill everybody by fighting over it.
Okay,
Yeah.
No,
I know it's-
some meetings are coming up before our next city council
Yeah.
meeting, so that's definitely a consideration.
There is an
But
EDCO
it's
meeting tomorrow morning, so
Okay.
if anybody is ready to hit the
All
road,
right, fun.
7:30 tomorrow.
I'd love to do EDCO. I used to do EDCO.
So, okay, I'm just gonna
Is that local or regional?
pencil as regional.
Okay.
I'm gonna pencil in Gary and, Sarah.
EDCO's fun. I was the alternate on it and it was quite enjoyable.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that a lot when I was the newbie.
All right, do you want to skip ahead to EDCO, or since we're talking about it, or just keep going?
Go
Why
down.
don't we
the
just
list.
keep going?
All right.
Yeah.
All right, COAC, Central Oregon Area Commission on Transportation. This is also kind of run by COIC, but kind of more of an ODOT-driven thing. No pun intended. I would really like to be on this one. I kind of have a lot of transportation interest and background. Somebody can arm wrestle me over it, and we would also need an alternate. So,
I'll volunteer to be alternate.
okay.
Andrea did that really well. She was very level-headed and good with that one.
Okay, great. Coco. I'll be planning on attending that, but as Michael said, it's open to anybody that wants to attend and,
I'd like-
Yeah,
wanted
it-
to stay on the water committee as well.
Yeah, the water subcommittee. I've
Yeah.
got 4 years on that, and I was actually asked by the other co-chair. I'm a co-chair of that subcommittee. And basically, we just meet on Zoom on alternate 2-week periods between, it used to be right before the regular meeting, but everything we came up with had to be
Mm.
just, already compiled, and
Yeah.
so we made it every other week. So it's once a month. It's Zoom. It's pretty simple in the sense of I can just take an hour. Rigs in person who drives from, the Portland area. So, Coco's really good. I highly recommend as the mayor you do that. All the mayors are involved in general, from most of the member cities. There's 9 in Central Oregon. And, yeah, it's a fun group, good group.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously anybody's welcome to attend these.
Yeah, and you might want to, you guys as new counselors might want to go to one and just
Yeah.
kind of see how the region works together in a group like Central Oregon Cities Organization and just see how it works. And you don't have to go to them regularly or anything like that, but there are other city councilors that go. Kat Zwicker from Redmond especially is super involved, and she's also on the water subcommittee. And we just deal with water. That's it. Coco was actually started because of water, and that was the main thing. And now we branched out. We talk about transportation. We talk about, all kinds of other things as well. But
And I was gonna say something about that. Oh well, it'll come to me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Edco.
And I'm roughly for it, but I'll happily let you have it. I'm the same with you. It's a fun meeting, and I think that,
how often are they meeting? And then are they meeting in Redmond most of the time?
They meet every other month, second Thursday, 8:30 to 10:30.
they move it around.
Yeah, it's usually in Redmond, but they'll move it around occasionally. And
Good.
there's
The
usually-
one I went to was at the college.
They also,
There's one here in town, I believe, too.
yeah, we try to do one in Sisters in the summer every year.
The question of which one of us could torment him more?
And it comes with the added benefit of getting to have a monthly meeting with Eric, with the Sisters Economic Development, Sisters Country Economic Development as well. And EDCO does really promote its members, and obviously any counselor, if they're involved or not, to attend their other functions like their pub talks, which are every month, usually at Worthy Brewing and in Bend. Kind of a fun networking
I think I
event,
did
but
2 of those last year, plus the one in town.
yeah,
so.
which anybody can go to.
Yeah.
You have to
I'd
sign
love
up,
to
but
do it. I do have somewhat of a passion, for talking to business owners and, so I'd like to do it if that's okay.
With me.
okay with me?
All right, I'm the EDCO guy.
No.
Sorry, Eric.
No offense, Eric.
Yeah, you didn't give me enough cash.
You didn't give me any cash.
All right, and then alternate.
I can alternate if, like, I have a feeling you're not gonna miss very many meetings, but,
you know.
so.
Yeah,
Well,
Gary, or is there,
any-
you have interest? Or Cheryl?
At this point, I kind of want to see how everything's
Okay,
floating
Okay.
out.
all right.
So,
I
thank
will,
you.
I will pencil Gary in.
Yeah, but
That's okay, but we can circle back.
Give it up if somebody else wants it.
Yeah. Coordinated Houseless Response Office, which my understanding is that person will also be part of the Regional Housing Council.
Yeah, they've asked that we have the same.
That's the
person
preference,
involved.
yeah.
And is this correct with the timing of it? Because last I heard, it was actually, they were going to be held one before the other.
That's right, yeah. They're working on that, but the last meeting there, they approved of the new structure, and that's what it sounds like, that there will be
Okay.
a meeting.
back-to-back
before.
meeting.
Yeah, separate, still a separate group, separate board and agenda, but back to back.
Big shoes to fill. Andrea was phenomenal at it. But don't let that scare you.
I'm
I
not-
mean, you know what I mean?
it's
She was
hard to
just,
Make me nervous.
no, okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
And I have no interest in doing it. I'll be
Yeah.
real blunt about it.
I'm-
I'm volunteering myself for now, for
Okay.
the next couple of years.
Okay.
We'll be fine.
And then we should probably have an alternate. Anybody like to do that? Jump on that or?
I don't mind. Let me just check the times here again.
Well, the
Okay.
times are gonna change, I think. Based on
Yeah,
what you heard at Jordan at the meeting, do you think they're looking at that morning meeting time or what they're gonna be doing?
No, it would be on that third Monday before, so either 3 or 4 o'clock. It would be a long day, but
Yep.
you only have to travel once.
And they're in Redmond or virtual.
They'll be, yes, they'll be in Redmond. They previously were at the county building, at least the CHRO, but I think they're gonna centralize it in Redmond because that's where the Regional Housing Council meets and it's a region, so.
I don't mind being an alternate. You know,
Pretty
if,
dependable.
I know, that's why I'd volunteer to be your alternate for sure. Of course, I don't, you know, it's up to you guys. I mean, I don't wanna,
You just got yourself an alternate.
Okay.
is that me?
I thought I heard an
Yeah,
arm
I
wrestle.
know, my-
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm gonna get the emails and stuff all the time, or is it just kind of? What do you think? I don't know. We'll worry about it later.
Yeah, it depends, I think. I think the organizations that require one, you'll, probably on their email list.
I'm not sure if the
I-
bylaws or the
Figure it out.
IGA requires an alternate,
Okay,
but we're
think
happy to
it's-
forward it.
We,
to
I
the
think we
alternate.
did alternates,
Yeah.
even if one was required for most.
hit that forward button.
My email will be ask a Sarah.
Yeah. Okay, Explorer
Forward to.
Sisters. Michael's been on that and yeah, is this one up for grabs? Is this like, I can't
What?
remember, is
Force-
this a
what?
timed?
Explore
Explore
Sisters.
Sisters.
Oh, Explore Sisters.
I have a thought on that.
Is
and-
there a,
Go ahead.
is there a time limit to the appointments or are we just allowed to rotate out?
I think we're just advisory, so I think it's up to us.
Oh, okay. Okay.
My,
I like it and I would continue to do it, but that's,
my thought on it is this. I was talking to Krista Parent the other day.
I'm sorry, who?
Not Chris, I mean,
Monroe.
Krista Monroe, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
That was something Krista Parent did. And, she's going off. And I think you have another, I think she said there was another person going off. And so two new people coming in, look like
Yeah.
good people. But I'm wondering if it's of benefit to maintain our same representation on that particular group
Yeah.
with the new folks coming in until everything gets established. So there's not
Yeah.
a new city person
I think
coming in. And I don't know where the rest, everybody else is on it, but that's just a sidebar discussion I had with her before I went over to the coast. When I renewed, because we missed the chance to renew our.
And the
sponsorship.
other thing I'd like to say about it is if 12 months down the road, the board settles down or we had all the new people are running 100%, if we could switch it even midstream if we wanted to, if that's a concern, I think. But I'd love to do it. Again, it's kind of that business side, I'm my own business owner too, and I do like that side of it. And the marketing piece kind of fits with my personality a little too, but, again, if, it's not up to just me, so.
And I have no opinion on it myself. I just wanted to bring that up as we discussed what to do.
It's a great board, I'm gonna tell you that, it's a super good.
The non-voting position advisory only.
Yeah,
Just like,
just kind of keeping your eyes
just kind of
on
like our
things.
committees.
So you're.
Counselor Pellerin,
Yes, ma'am.
how are you doing?
Good.
Did you,
Just being very quiet
It-
over here.
anything sparking your?
Yes.
And we can,
Get there?
and we can come back around, yeah,
Okay.
if we're feeling we're all unbalanced
Well,
here.
how do
Yeah.
we feel? I mean, I'm okay with Michael doing it.
I'd
I'd do it if he didn't want
like
it.
it, I don't,
Yeah,
I don't mind at
I
all
don't
to
know,
continue
but-
to do that, I was kind of hoping to, but I'm not trying to assert any,
forward to that. No,
Okay.
that's fine.
I'll take it.
I mean, I think we'd all enjoy it, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think
I
we all
think
we would.
would. So,
yeah.
so maybe it is something where we kind of look at putting a different person in there as we kind of go over, because I think it'd be good for all of us to kind of get a sense of how it operates.
Yeah. We do write them a big check.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is their reporting requirements are, they're written down. We
Yeah.
have with, he's coming in this month, I think, next month, soon.
For an update.
Yeah.
It's quarterly or something and, I'm sorry? End of February. So he's
Yep.
coming to us to give us a report as a council. So, there's no big secrets or anything like that, but it is fun.
The
to watch.
website's looking better
It's
every
fun
day.
to watch it work, actually. So
Yeah.
that's why I like it.
Yeah.
And she was very complimentary, by the way, to the new folks coming on. She was very pleased with who was coming onto the board.
Well,
And I guess that, you don't officially need an alternate, but obviously, I think any of us would be happy to,
Yeah.
if there's ever one you can't make,
Yeah,
just reach out to one of us.
I will do that.
All right, the vision implementation team, I've been on that. I would prefer to stay on that.
I think it's similar to Explore Sisters. I think kind of having a continuity doesn't hurt if you can fold it into your, all the other stuff you're gonna do.
Counselor
Yeah.
Pellegrin's also interested.
Yeah, I have an interest on that.
I'm
one.
I'm trying to think if there's a way to have two of us there. Without kind of overcrowding the room. I mean, it's because yeah, I mean, I'd really like to stay on it, though. I definitely would see the value of you being on it as well. So,
Never feels like it's overcrowded in there.
yeah, I mean, it's not technically a public meeting, you know, but I mean, how would you, I mean, you have more insight on running that meeting. You know, if there was, would it be awkward if there was you know, two counselors that were there or
I don't think so.
members or, okay,
Not, I mean, I think you guys could behave.
okay.
No, I'm in the middle. I'm gonna be quiet.
Yeah.
Watch it, Gary.
Why don't we put both of us? I will just reach out to Kellen Klein and make sure that that's okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and if, yes, please,
Yeah.
because Carrie is also a member.
So I'm the staff liaison for that, but I'm also on the executive committee, and those positions are by appointment. So the executive committee actually does decide. And so it is up to them, which we met today, and we're actually going to bring on another member, and that fills our 20 positions. Today was that decision, or that conversation is happening. So I don't know that the council has the ability, because it's not our board, to say we want two representatives on that board, because it's not
Okay.
ours. So just as a clarifying
That,
point.
Stephanie?
Yes, if they're still having conversations, but yeah.
Good. Is there opportunity for alternates to that, or is it?
Yes, absolutely. There's opportunities for alternates with
Okay.
that. Yeah, as stepping in and out, because it is voting, but there's not a lot of votes that happen within that board. So yeah, I think that would be,
Executive committee will have to approve. I mean, can we make a recommendation or?
so I think that the way that the board was put together was that there was equal representation across all agencies. We are just one agency as a part of that. It is not our board. It is a conglomerate. So for the city to potentially have more voice in that room, I don't know how they will feel about that as a,
Were you asking, could you make the recommendation as to who goes, which person? Is that what you meant? Or,
Who it ends up being?
yeah, like
Yeah, if they're not gonna let us do both.
so,
If-
so the city has a seat and you guys get to determine who's in that seat.
That's, that.
That's what that is. We have one seat, we don't have two on that board. So,
Thank you.
Okay, let's circle back to that one.
Okay.
City boards and committees, the City Parks Advisory Board. Previously held by Councilor Ross. And all of these, even though it doesn't, you know, we don't officially, most of the time, we are not a non-voting member on these
We
committees.
get no vote. Yep.
And, but it's also very helpful to have an alternate, as well. We always like to have a council presence there regardless, so. It's not officially needed, but we've usually
And
operated that
how-
way.
How we've done it, like with the Parks Advisory Board, if I'm out of town, I'll give Jennifer a call or somebody else and say, okay, can you cover for me? Mainly because sometimes the discussion moves into areas that may be policy or whatever, and you have to kind of step in and say, well, you know, make your suggestion, we'll bring it up. And sometimes you can also provide clarification as to what it is that they're looking at doing. They're all interesting. They really are. So I'd be happy to continue to do it, but if somebody else wanted to, I would back away from it. I have a background and that's why I'm interested in it, but I'm not hung up on
Are you,
doing it.
are you more interested in city parks or urban forestry?
City parks.
Okay. Then I'd take urban forestry. I jumped ahead. Sorry,
Yeah,
Jennifer.
no,
that's fine.
no,
I was
no,
just,
no.
because the two are related.
Right.
Since Gary's on both of those.
And I'd be willing to be an alternate for either or. Probably not both, but one of the two. I'm in town a lot.
Yeah, the UFB meets almost every month. When there's something on the agenda. The Parks Advisory was meeting every other month, but right now, because of the naming of the transportation hub, they decided as a group that they would be the subcommittee, the entire board, and that they would meet monthly. And I think the next meeting we have a meeting next week.
January 15th.
Yep. And so, I will be there for.
Okay,
So
so I
who's
have Gary on
Whatever.
Parks, Cheryl for Urban Forestry Board, unless anybody else had.
Who should we do as an alternate on, who should I call first on Parks?
Why don't you just call me?
Okay.
We've been working together a long time.
Yeah.
And we've got each other's numbers, and I think I got everybody's number now.
Yes, you got everybody's number.
Okay,
There you go.
Unless Cheryl, you want to be an alternate on that, or did you care?
I don't mind either.
well,
Be the alternate.
Yeah.
why don't you, if you want.
Sometimes it gets down, you have to go down the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so.
Anyone?
Yeah, sometimes you do. I have done that before. Okay,
And then alternate for UFB, Urban Forestry Board.
might as well be me since I've got the time on it. It's, well, I don't know. I mean, just that, I kind of how that group works.
Yeah.
It's
fine.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we talk trees.
Nobody else wants to do it?
And sometimes we have
Or-
to do the hard job of cutting trees down, which sometimes kills all of us.
Yeah.
So,
Public Works Advisory Board. It was previously Counselor Blum, so
I'll do it.
that's
I-
open.
Yeah, I have some
I-
interest in that too.
Yeah. I mean, I really haven't done one of our local advisory boards.
Yeah, I know, that's right.
It's so weird. 6 years, but I've never done one, so. Are there any other ones?
We have the Planning Commission Council Liaison, which I don't know, has that been finalized yet, or is it still conceptual?
Yeah, it's up to you if you want to finalize it
Oh, okay.
tonight, yeah, by assigning
Okay.
a liaison. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for everybody's benefit. That's something that we
Carol's
just
been awful quiet down here.
Yeah,
talked-
really.
talked a few years about having, so.
No,
No, go.
that's not you.
I can volunteer to be alternate on the Public Works.
Okay.
Who's the regular?
Susan
Cheryl?
had interest in Public Works and you had interest in Public Works, so. here's-
Hey, thumb wrestle.
But I'm just saying
See,
that
I called her
it's not.
Sarah
no,
for 2
it-
years, that's the
no,
problem. It's
6 or 7
I'm
people
sorry.
call me Susan regularly, so you can just
Really
jump
hope I
on
was
that
gonna
boat.
not do that.
Well, I'll wear my name tag. next
Okay.
time. I did take
Well,
it off.
do need
I'll
name
use
tag.
to wear it.
See, Susan's
I
writing
don't
that down.
know. The answer's- You
All right,
can try.
both, Michael and Sarah had interest in Public Works, so this
I
is,
mean-
this is where the arm wrestling comes in.
No, sir, if you
Some more.
want to do it, please feel free. If you have interest in
Well, I would like to
And then
do
there's
something in
planning
addition to the two,
The ones that aren't the two houses, you want something fun.
the ones that
Yeah.
I threw my body at.
Yeah,
Thank you, by the way.
I mean, I think you should. I mean, I think there's enough room for all of us to have 2 or 3 or, I don't know
yeah,
about 4,
yeah.
but
3 cents.
you know what I mean? So. I've got Edco and Explore Sisters. I don't mind taking on one more, maybe, just depends on how things go.
And Edco has 2 sets of
But
meetings.
are you saying that you'd like to do something that's a little less strenuous, or you're saying
No.
you think you have enough to do?
No, I
I
would
think
like
so.
to do something,
Yeah.
another topic, I guess,
Yeah.
is more of it.
Yes.
Okay,
And, is so fascinated by the, pump tours.
yes.
Actually,
You
it did
don't
kind of
need
pique,
to.
no,
It's
it
like-
actually kind of piqued my interest. I was like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, I think it's Sarah.
Yep.
Okay, all right, good with that. And then alternate, did you say you wanted
I'll do it, yeah.
to be the alternate,
Sure.
Cheryl?
Sure.
Okay, and then.
The alternate has to clean the screen
Yeah.
when it gets stuck full of stuff.
Okay.
And
That'd
then,
be all.
I guess we can all decide if we want to do the Planning Commission Council Liaison. This would be new.
I think it's important that we have someone because I have a lot of questions sometimes about how we get to where we get to, and no offense to the planning commission, it just seems that in the end, I sometimes feel caught a little bit by surprise by where things are coming from or whatever, so.
All 4 years I was mayor, I wanted to go to planning commission meetings just to see just to watch it. And really, you just kind of stay away because they're voting on things that we're gonna,
Well,
they're recommending things that we're gonna vote on.
And that's gonna
So
be.
that was
trick.
why I was always like, well, I'm just gonna let it go. I think it's a great idea. And I think that, I think that's, and no offense, I think it's an area that expertise is helpful, a little.
How did you like the planning commission when you were on? Were you not?
Me?
Were you on? it? No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. How'd
Would you
like it?
want to go back and be a
fun.
liaison?
Would you want to go back and be a
That's what-
liaison? It would be hard to sit there and not pipe in.
I don't think it'd be hard. I'm not sure I'm wary of committing myself to
Okay.
Yeah.
that. But I do have to say, and this is no ill feelings, but there were things that we talked about in planning commission that got lost in translation.
Yeah.
And were maybe not taken as seriously as I would have preferred. As a, like, just something to be discussed and thought through. So I think having a liaison where that, like, the conversation happens here and then it happens here, like just the translation of one person. Like, I think that would be lovely.
To boil it down a little.
Yeah.
And-
It's not, it was like playing telephone, that's all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and Sarah and I we chatted about this the other day, and also we realized that there will be meetings where, we can't attend because there is something that
Right.
we might have to vote on.
We have to vote
but-
on where we're just gonna have to basically walk out of the room.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, it is a lot of, it's potentially a lot of meetings, 2 a month. However, there'd probably be a number that, whoever the representative is will not be attending, so. Based on the agenda, so, yeah. Cheryl, did you have interest in that, or?
I kind of was nodding my head yes when Counselor Predin was saying it may be beneficial for somebody with a little more experience in this area. So I
But-
wasn't-
I
You
said
want to
that.
do that, don't you? I know you were.
Well,
planning
Well,
commission.
I was
I
on planning
agree.
commission.
I agree.
But, maybe my comment was not as valid as I think. I think, because I know
I agree
you
with
and
that.
I
Yeah.
know you and I
Yeah.
think you would be good at it. So, that's,
Yeah.
and can I just say something? You can call me Michael. I don't mind. Are we all okay on first names? Is that
Yeah.
I
okay?
am.
Yeah.
For decorum?
Bubba?
Can I call you Susan or, Sarah?
Get the right first name.
You can call me
Thank you.
Joe.
Are we okay on first names?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you don't have to call me Counselor Creed.
Okay.
So,
Okay, Council Predin.
I do, mayor, you can call her mayor, that's good. I
Like
like,
C5.
I like that decorum. I
Okay,
think you could, if you want to do it, I think you should do it.
I don't feel ready.
Okay. Why don't, I'll do it. I was on planning commission. Unless you want to do it, you can. I'm not trying to take it
Oh.
away from you. Planning
No,
commission
she's-
liaison?
No. I'm
She's
okay.
not.
I'll take it. I'd like you to be my alternate and maybe early on,
Okay.
we'll make sure you get to one so you can, kind of flesh it out a little bit. Go to one, see what it's all about.
Yeah.
This,
That way I don't have to do every meeting. I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I know, I used to be on it. It was a long time ago. It was 09, 08, no, or 09 and 10. It was a long time ago, but I kind of liked it. So I don't
Well,
mind being that if
I
it's
think that
okay with
it's-
everybody.
Especially with what we have happening in the next year and a half, 2 years, having some insight for someone on this board as to what's happened in the discussions. And we, for the benefit, you probably have seen this, but we tend to talk about it at the end during the councilor comments. That's typically where it comes up.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we'll
Yep.
talk about what was discussed and that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll help you navigate the meetings, if there's a land use hearing, for example, you shouldn't attend that. Really is you know, ideally the liaison is an opportunity to provide that conduit of communication back and forth between the council and the planning commission. I would advise like the planning commission have a portion at the beginning of the agenda for the counselor update. So you can even have a place on the agenda to have 5 minutes to say, here's the things that we met and been talking about. And then the legislative stuff, similar to UFB and, you know, things that they forwarded to the council. It provides an opportunity for you to kind of learn about it, hear about it, provide some direction even. Here's what the council was thinking about this, so that things don't get lost in the translation. But there is historically, we haven't had one for those concerns about bias claims and things like that because you sat in on a land use hearing that you later got an appeal or something like that.
Right. Or we don't want to obviously risk any of that, but, I don't mind, I can speak the language at least, and what I can do is I can say, hey, I've got a PC meeting coming up. Do you guys have anything that you want me to kind of pass on?
And I hadn't really thought about that as that at the beginning, because of the things we're talking about, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I really do. It's to help bring them up, not just report back to us about what planning commission talked about, but report to the planning commission about the things that are on our docket that may end up in their lap.
Yeah, I'll lean on staff a little bit to help me out to, you know, fill in the information, not just council, but. So, okay, I'm okay if you're okay.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Your Thursdays will be busy.
Yes, they will. Your third Thursdays.
Yeah.
And was there an alternate
Four Sisters is Thursday, but I think it's third or fourth,
third?
fourth. We just switched, I think.
What I heard Michael talk about related to that was to have Cheryl kind of come in.
Okay.
And
Be
get a feel for
alternate,
it, be an
but I-
alternate, and then
Fantastic.
go from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could split it 50-50. If it turns out to be really, really busy, maybe maybe we should Yeah.
Okay.
switch it off a little bit, just so nobody's overburdened.
Yeah, 2 meetings, yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough?
And then just
VIT, did we ever settle that?
Just, yeah, I'll circle back to that to a second and just, for understanding people's full, plates, you know, Michael's still gonna participate with Coco with the water subcommittee, as he mentioned. I'm the chair of the Deschutes County Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which is not mandatory, but that is something that, you know, I do kind of represent the city, in that as well. So that's just another one on my list here. There's also, the school superintendent has a monthly meeting open to the public, which I like to attend because I've got skin in the game there, but, that is also open to anybody as well if they ever want to attend that.
Is it free coffee?
Yes,
School coffee.
Yeah.
Makes you smarter.
it's the coffee they serve to the elementary school students.
Chocolate milk.
Yeah. Really hot chocolate milk. Yeah, and I can't remember if there's anything, I mean, I know that there's nothing that you necessarily do in like an official capacity. I know we all have our little, our groups and our committees and stuff like that, you know, just
Yeah.
on the side, but,
Have we got everything but VIT?
yeah.
Did we do COIC?
Yeah,
Who was that?
COIC is,
Who's on it? Who did we pick?
Gary and Sarah. Gary is,
Gary's going to be the
Number
go
and-
there at 5:30 at night and grumble the whole time
Yeah.
person. And Sarah is going to be the nice person who doesn't grumble when she goes there because Gary's out of town.
Okay.
unless.
I've heard
Carol-
the food is good. That's what I.
Well, they do have a good dinner.
If food
I mean-
motivates you, that's a good one.
I mean, do you have interest in that show? I mean,
Um,
not to steal that from you, Gary, but,
no,
I mean, it's.
I would do it, but,
It's really great. Like I said, I mean, it would be really great if each one of us had a regional meeting where we were working with, you know, people from the county and the other counties. And I think you're the only one who doesn't. Just as a recommendation, you know, you don't have to. I feel that there's a lot of value in that.
Especially given that, you know, both of you are going to be here, well, probably longer than some of the other people at this table.
Dum, dum, dum.
I got 2 years
I've got 2 years.
and I'm not.
And
not
so
going
what I'm
to-
saying is that
I'll-
having, building institutional knowledge is really important.
mhm.
That's how I look at this.
And it was, I think, see, you know,
We're not
looking,
gonna
looking at
double-check,
Susan,
just
but I
make
mean, I
sure.
think it was such a great experience because they do so much in the region. And to learn about everything that they do was really helpful and to bring that back, here. So,
It may be the
I'm not trying to,
biggest,
that
might be the biggest single connectivity organization in this area. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
is.
they're all over the place.
it is. So,
I'm okay with not doing it. I mean, I would
Okay.
happily do it, but I'm also very happy if someone else does it. Like I said, my evening meetings are not my fun time.
yeah, it's the first Thursday evening meeting and they serve dinner.
Is it a nonprofit? Are you literally a nonprofit board member
COIC?
with fiduciary duties?
No,
Call it a board.
they're
I
a,
shouldn't have gone to that training.
they're a regional government body. And so each of the members are, I don't know, how many are there? 20 or something?
Yeah,
You know?
elected, they require that the person who's there is an elected official.
Yeah.
Is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's not-
we financially,
Little governance.
and we do have to, it's kind of like EDCO where there is a little bit of pay to play with COIC, right? We do,
I don't know if it is. I
I
don't
thought
know
we
if
cut them a
it's pay to
check. I
play.
thought we cut them a check. Okay. Yeah, see, I thought we did as well, but
I'll check on that. I
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
think so. I think the
All
way
right.
that they're structured is that.
So I think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
was that good?
Cheryl.
Gary,
Yeah, I didn't want to force you into it, but I
No.
just think you'd really enjoy it.
thank you.
I did. I mean, I do it again. It's just not the best for my schedule. And,
I'm gonna stay alternate.
okay,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'd love to check it out, but
Okay.
not take on that.
and as, they do them I think they offer Zoom, so I mean, you could always just Zoom in if
Check
you
out.
wanted to, it is a public meeting. So anybody can participate and watch. You're just not voting on anything.
I think my dance card's full. I'm just looking at it going,
Yeah,
full.
Yeah, we got to look at conflicts of what we are on.
Schedule.
yeah, and we can go back and shift these things. So,
Well,
um,
I think when it goes to Rebecca and she starts to pull it all together, it looks like we've got a problem. We're gonna hear about it.
Yeah, I don't think COIC and Planning Commission are compatible. First Thursday of the month.
I can be the
Right,
Sounds like my.
alternate then,
on planning.
in COIC.
Oh, COIC.
Oh, I'm okay to be the alternate,
Oh, okay.
but I'm just,
You're talking about if I'm on COIC, I probably can't be the alternate for planning commission because of the time conflict there. But I could do the third Thursday, but I.
Yeah, yeah,
First
sure.
Thursday.
But I really do look at these as opportunities for both of you to kind of make connections and really begin to build the next city council.
You are our future.
yeah,
It was what I tried hard not to say.
And you have to do the motion,
yeah.
the future.
And then Cheryl, circling back to the VIT, I think my interest in that is that I'm just, involved in a few of the, projects right now, which are kind of in motion, there's one on daycare especially. So it's kind of partially wanting to see that through. So it could be something that, if you want to be the alternate and then, we could talk later about a time that maybe we can phase me out and phase you in.
Okay,
so,
But I think there's just some stuff that I just want to see through in the next 6 months or a year or something like
I
that.
would say like 10 years.
Yeah, no,
Hopefully not.
so will you be okay with COACT, COCO, VIT,
Yeah, I'm worried about your
and the
commitment.
bike ped?
And mayor.
yeah.
I just wanted to
Um,
say it all out loud. at
yeah.
once to-
COACT is only,
Quarterly?
yeah, it's 6 months. It's every other month.
Yes, six
It's
meetings
6
a year.
meetings a year.
That's not-
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I just felt like that was okay because it was, and VIT is the same thing. It's every other month, right? Or is it quarterly?
First, it's every.
It's every other.
Every other month.
Yeah, that one's also every other month, so.
Well, I think the one that I really want to say thank you to is picking up the number 5 and number 6. Those are going to be big commitments.
Yeah.
And they're important to what's going on in
Very
the
important.
community. And
Yeah,
having stability of a person in there as opposed to someone like myself who comes and goes on vacation. And those kinds of things is important. So
Yeah, no,
I want to thank you for being willing to do that.
The other thing we should just all know is that if your schedule's too full,
Tell us.
yeah,
Yeah.
Change it.
let
We
the
can
other
always-
ones know.
This stuff
Yeah.
If
is-
we have to change something, we can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't, this isn't written in.
You
the
aren't,
plan
you
that we
aren't
have,
committed
so.
to, we didn't commit you.
Yeah.
You're committed, but we didn't commit you.
Right, and anybody can circle back to me on any of this if they want to tweak anything, or, you
Yeah,
go to a
yeah,
couple meetings and you
We've done it
find that it's
before.
not your gig.
I knew it'd be a late night. We haven't on our calendar yet, have we?
Okay. No, we're doing it next.
Mayor, do we need a formal motion on the appointments, given that some of those are intergovernmental bodies that ask for the city to submit their,
I don't think.
have
we've done that
we've never done that?
Never done it before, but,
Okay.
Okay, well, if they accepted that, that's fine.
well, if
We have a record of it.
if it appears that we need to do that based on the research you'll do
Okay.
between this meeting and the next one, we can always do it at the next meeting.
Yes.
So what is the next step in informing these committees and boards to get us on there?
We let the staff liaison
Okay,
to those bodies know.
so we'll just hold out for an invitation email.
Yeah, that's how it happened with me. I could,
Okay.
you could put it on a mailing list, and all of a sudden stuff start popping in your inbox.
Great.
Yeah.
Floodgates. And, okay.
All right, the next up. Sorry about the length of this meeting. Review of the city council meeting calendar for 2025.
So this, yeah, unfortunately, the first meeting of the year, we have some logistics to
Yeah.
discuss.
This
So-
calendar has 12 months.
Yes.
That's
They are
right.
named in sequence, typically with a regular calendar. Some have more days than others. What else do you want to know?
Well, we'd like to know how the council feels about their schedule this year. Typically, the council selects a couple dates. One in the summer for a summer break. I think it's in the past, it's been either the second meeting in July or the first meeting in August. There's really about 3 meetings there that are targets for a summer break. And then, given that we have that second and fourth dates, we often have conflicts with the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays fall around that time. So we have that situation coming up this year with the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and then the December meeting, I believe, is actually on Christmas Eve. And then immediately we have the question of spring break. So Oregon's spring break, I think, is the 24th through the 28th. I know some of you probably plan vacations around that time, so that's why we like to touch base with you as soon as we can.
And sister's spring break.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, right?
It's the 15th through the
Yeah.
31st. I'm sorry, 14th through the
I have
31st, 30th.
traditionally in the past taken that week and disappeared. So, but
Which week is that?
spring break.
Yeah.
One of the weeks.
I had seen it done previous years, so I booked myself spring break, so, yeah.
As long as we're efficient, as long as we're efficient in goal setting and we don't need to have things, it's not really a horrible one to have only one that month. We've done it before, right?
Yes, we have.
There's 2 of us with kids, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that's
I can
that's
get around that.
the other thing is that it's a short month the next month, meaning, the second is a Wednesday, and so the 9th is a Wednesday. So it's not as big a gap as it would be in some other months.
Yeah, I always put a caveat. I mean, if we do get loaded up on calendars, as you guys know, or the agendas, that sometimes we may have a special
Of
meeting
course.
that needs to pop on. Keep in mind in the spring, April, May-ish, I think May here, we do budget committee too. So you have an added
Yeah.
meeting during that duration.
Yeah, I can go either way on that, on the spring break one.
Me too.
But also, it's also, that and the summer breaks too, there's a lot of staff members that also do have children as well, and try to take advantage of those times. So I want to be really respectful to staff as well, so. And I don't know if they've weighed in on that and they always bounce back. It
I-
always bounces back to us saying, no, 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 it's.
I
okay, yeah,
was just gonna do that. Don't worry
But-
about us. We'll plan around
Oh.
your schedule.
No.
We anticipate having 2 meetings a month all through the year, but
In the past, we've also scheduled a meeting where we think we might take it off, and if the schedule allows, you just
We have.
cancel it as it gets closer. That's the other thing we could do.
yeah, but in terms of vacation planning for you and staff, it is easier to know, oh, there's
Yeah.
not gonna be a meeting the second week
So,
of July or whatever.
Let's tackle the elephant in the room before we go back to the 26th and the 24th, which would be the summer break. There are two possible dates. They both give the same length of break as if I look at it in terms of pretty darn close anyway. So if we didn't hold a meeting on the 23rd, you would have
July.
July, you'd have a meeting on the 9th, and then you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and a meeting almost 5, you have 5 weeks before the meeting would be in the 5th week, the 13th. So it's a long break. If you take it on if you take the 13th off, which means your last meeting is on the 23rd of July, you have the same amount of time. So the question becomes, do you want to take time July into August or take time in August right up until almost, early September? I mean, at the end of the month, closer to the Labor Day. I mean, we'd be back in session before Labor Day.
July is less smoky, so let's take July off. Sometimes that smoke starts up in August and
Yeah.
it's kind of
It
bad.
does. But I'm okay either way.
I don't care.
I no longer have a horse in this race. I just make it work. But for the folks that have kids or have other commitments, I think it's important. And,
I usually, my family takes the first week of August because that's my birthday. So
Mm.
it doesn't matter because it's the 5th. We always go to the beach. We have a family reunion and so
there's no
it's not
city- yeah.
affected either
Yeah.
way, so I
Yeah.
don't care.
I
I think we've generally done the second one in July though, and I think
think
that's
so. What we
pretty.
Does
pretty-
that work
pretty
well for,
standard.
does that work well for staff? And I want an honest answer.
That's, it's been.
Probably
pretty
doesn't work well for public works, so you guys have to work anyway, but.
They're giving you a blank stare.
It's,
Yeah.
it's.
They're
it's-
wide.
So late.
It's kind of the traditional one. That's what I would call it.
Yeah.
The second one. in
See, if we
July.
were in, if we were
I
in
don't-
New England, I would say you take August, 'cause that's when the bugs are the lowest.
Yeah.
But, you have to think about the smoke.
I have no opinion.
My opinion would be August. Take that off. Then you could disappear in smoke. But I could do either. I have no plans.
I have no plans.
I'm fine with both, either.
Let's keep it the same. Which is the second one in July. I think that it's kind of just, it's just easier to have that clock tick every year.
I think it depends too on where you go. If you're gonna
True.
stay in Central Oregon, then the July time is really good.
Mhm.
If you're gonna escape the
It's-
country, then
It's
the
hot as
August
hell
time is
everywhere
good.
else too,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't have a strong opinion, so.
And we don't send the cavalry out if you miss a meeting either, so.
Yep.
I think
You
I
haven't
missed-
read the new charter.
So we're July 23rd,
Okay.
we'll be taking summer break.
Is that okay? Okay.
Works for me. I mean, I'm okay either way, so. I counted the weeks. I was gonna take the one that had the longest weeks, and they actually are almost exactly the same.
Okay.
I did this.
Let's skip ahead to November and December, because I was trying to see if there was an opportunity there. I think, didn't we do this year where we shifted?
Yeah, we
week.
shifted
November.
shifted in the past, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like
How's that work with October? I didn't look at it.
if we shifted December meetings to the first and third
Fifth
Wednesday,
and third, yeah, that's what we
are
did.
we doing too much shifting there?
Of October 29th, then it would be November 5th and 19th.
Yeah,
October 8th and 22nd.
8th and 22nd, so there's,
Then we'd skip a week. That's
Oh, sorry, 8th and 20, you're right. Right.
It's okay. I can barely see anymore.
There is a week in between the 22nd and,
that's what I was,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
so
that could work.
would actually work.
yeah,
wouldn't it?
we just don't want back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, and December, it doesn't, usually one meeting is fine in December anyway, right?
Well, we could do one meeting in
Typically.
November and then shift to December. I don't care.
I mean, the holiday season could be busy for you guys too, for extra stuff going on and everything. I mean, if you
I,
having two meetings.
this year we only had one in December.
One in December.
Well, we had one,
And we
We canceled. one.
shifted the two in November to first and third.
yeah, I think that's what we did, didn't we? Yeah.
We did end up canceling a meeting in fall.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a,
Remember what?
the spacing and putting on November 5th and 19th makes sense. However, I don't know if that is,
What
Works.
did you say, Jennifer?
if we did November 5th and 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Instead.
that's what we've
I
talked
mean,
about.
yeah, the spacing would work out. Is that,
Yeah.
is that confusing to the public, or anything like that, or?
We've
Staff.
noticed,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Does that?
That's why we're doing it now, so they'll have
Okay.
plenty of notice.
The only thing it might bump into if there's any Wednesday night meetings on this list, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I don't think there was a
I
lot.
don't think there were, I think they were on Thursdays.
Everybody wants to meet on Thursdays.
I know.
Okay, and then,
day.
back to spring break.
How hard do you want to work, everybody?
Again. Meeting on the 12th and the 26th.
A pretty big gap between the 12th and the 9th. But that's a really, but spring break is big. I mean,
It's one of those things where
Hmm.
if somebody needs to take spring break off, it's not the end of the world as long as we got a quorum going, you know what I mean?
I'm thinking too it also does affect to some degree staff.
Yeah, especially staff whose kids go to other school districts that aren't sisters, so, because that would be the week that they would be wanting to take off, so. But yeah, I don't want to lose a meeting, because yeah, you're right, we're getting into budget seasons, stuff like that, so. I don't have a great solution.
Yeah, we can also, this is the one that we play by ear, just to see what the agenda looks like. And, when you cancel a meeting, sometimes it just means your other meetings get busier, longer.
Well,
They go
and
longer.
we would probably have a pretty good sense by the end of February what March is looking like, would we
Mhm.
not?
Yeah, I'm looking at the look ahead and there's nothing yet, but
But I'm
mean,
just saying
yeah.
that in
Usually starts
terms of,
filling up in a
in
month.
terms of if you scheduled the regular way, the 26th could be a canceled meeting if it looked like the agenda would survive it.
mhm.
It's just not great for people trying to make
Plans.
plans ahead, yeah,
Well, you
planning ahead.
just be sure you get cancelable airplane tickets, cancelable hotels and cancelable boat rides and. No, I will go with whatever the group decision is, cause I'm at a point in my life where those days don't mean anything anymore. When I worked in schools, I met a hell of a lot.
Yeah, at the moment, it's not critical to me personally. I just feel like it could be for staff, so that's where my biggest concern lies.
Let's
with
take
staff.
it off then.
I'm,
One of
at this point, I'm not aware of a lot of vacations planned for that week, but
Okay.
I know a lot of people like to get away in the springtime to get actual spring.
No,
Go to the valley and smell flowers, then come back and look at the brown again.
Yeah, and the snow.
I mean, we can take it off,
Got daffodils over here.
we can take it off the calendar, but if I think it'd be maybe, would be easier to take it off the calendar, but then if something does come up, we can
Yeah.
reschedule
Have
it.
a long, or have a long meeting, or just longer meetings.
We
and-
have a long meeting, yeah.
Okay,
Your staff's not gonna tell us, so we just
Yeah.
kind of have to make the decision.
Well, and
And there's, a lot more staff with kids than us with kids too, so.
yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
I move to remove
That's where I'm at.
March.
okay,
I'm there
let's do
too.
it.
It's gone.
Okay,
Gonna take off that meeting.
all right, you got all that? Okay, goal setting. Manager Wheeler.
I will spare you a long staff report on this. I just wanted to give you a check-in on goal setting. I have a couple questions on it. I've kind of already previewed this with counselors individually, but our plan is to kind of carry out goal setting activities similar to last year with conducting an open house. And I think we have a hold on your calendars already for January 29th. That'll be at 5 p.m. And then we would also do an online survey, an online open house. for, probably go out in mid-January and go through February or mid-February. We have another online open house going right now in the UGB, so we want to wait till that one is complete before we issue anything, asking for community's input on goals. And then we have the city council workshop scheduled for Thursday, February 20th. And that's during the day. There's still a conflict with Councilor Ross.
No.
Okay.
Actually, I've been thinking about this a little bit. My first year on council, jumping into goal setting without having much time under my belt on this group was difficult.
Mhm.
Very difficult. And I know that the goals establish what we're going to be doing in the next fiscal year and all those fun things. Next fiscal year starts in July. Although we all start on them earlier, and I get that too. I'm wondering if there's cause for us to think about pushing that out a little bit to give our new members a little bit more time under their belt with what's going on and what the issues are before we ask them to sit down and kind of decide what the goals for the next 2 years are going to be. And I that's just my thinking process. I'm okay with the way it is. But I don't know why this popped into my head in the middle of the night last night, but it did. And I probably laid there and contemplated it for 35 minutes to an hour. So,
You should have gotten up and read.
yeah, it would have been a hell of a lot more productive. So I just throwing it out there to think about, is it wise for us to
Just,
go into that process so soon in the year?
Well,
just for clarification, it's 1 year's goals?
It's 1 year.
yeah, one fiscal year. So one of the reasons why we start, almost immediately is because of budget development does start
Right, that's
soon
true.
for us.
Yes.
So it's helpful to understand what the council's goal is going to be in the new fiscal year so we can incorporate in that
I don't care if
the
George-
budget. Two other thoughts. Most cities, they either do calendar or they do fiscal year.
Yeah.
It's just kind of you either choose one or the other. And council can decide, hey, we want to switch to a calendar year, and then you kind of get in this problem of when do you budget for those goals? You wait, until you go through. But we do have folks coming off a campaign. You've been doing a lot of outreach, you've been to a lot of events, you've talked to a lot of people, you've gone door to door probably. So you probably have ideas fresh and ready to go. We've had orientation meetings, we've had the council roundtable with staff. We'll have the major projects and initiatives updated. We'll have a status update on all the goals. So there is a lot of materials to dive into and read and kind of get caught up on. But as part of the goal setting process is that sort of education on where we're at with things, where we're at in projects, certain programs that have been initiated, other, goals that are multi-year goals and where we're at in the progress. So there's that component. And then it's just the timing on coming in with new ideas sometimes lends itself
Okay.
pretty well after a campaign.
I forgot about the budget piece, but like I said, I was just kind of thinking how I kind of floundered that first year as I was thinking about it. The way it's back, but
It's
it's
just
just
you, man. No.
me.
The workshop is the 20th of February. So there's, a month and a half between, and then you guys will be up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, you got the 3-hour tour from Paul. I mean, you're
Yeah.
done, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel okay. I mean, and even if it's a little bit more following this year, but I mean, it feels, I think, I've watched the last couple years because that's what I do in my spare time. And, it feels like there's a structure in place that we're going to go with anyway. And so I think there'll be natural goals to have within the topics. It's kind of an evolution of where we were a year ago and where we are now.
It's, this will be my 7th. So I've been on council for 6 full years now. This will be my 7th goal setting. And we've improved it every year. It's improved every
It
year.
has.
It used to be, before I got there, it used to be like 3 days of goals and then 3 days of budgets. And, we just kind of have learned as a city organization, kind of how to do it better with good staff, good councils. And it's really not that bad. And there's a lot of things that are already in the works. Some of our goals are multi-year. We've got capital improvements projects coming. Some of it's already in motion and set in place, and we're just kind of guiding it through its lanes and things like that. And, obviously we want to hear some of the new stuff. One of the reasons we wanted you guys to be involved is because you guys are new, you'll have fresh ideas that we haven't heard before. So I hope that happens.
Or
But
two
it doesn't
on
have
the
to be 10 of them.
Yeah.
If you only have one or two, great. I mean, that's more than I could come up with my first year, for sure. Other than I remember I was like, let's sign this contract with the Deschutes County Sheriff. That was the one thing I was always like, when I first got in here, let's make sure that that's what we do. And now that it's in place, we don't have to worry about that anymore, unless we have a particular goal that we want to sidetrack them on or something. But honestly, it's not, I don't think it's sometimes it sounds a little daunting, but I don't think it's that daunting.
Okay, yeah, so we're good with sticking with the schedule as,
Great.
as
I just
previously
wanted to,
shared.
like I said, there's stuff that happens in the middle of the night where you're breaking.
Oh, that's,
It doesn't matter. It
great
doesn't-
question.
It's not bad to revisit it sometimes.
absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
No,
make
it's a
sure
great
let's
thought.
talk it out.
Great thought. One question is, would you like this year to get input from other organizations?
For example, like, what's an example of other?
So one of the things we're trying to schedule is like a joint meeting with the school district board. You know, we have a lot of community partners that we work with, you know, informally, but also formally, you know, our EDCO board, other groups
Okay.
that kind of just informally ask, like, as part of the things that you would like the city council to consider for goals this year. And we could do that either just by reaching out to their staff or whatever, to see if they would
Yeah.
want to.
You know, with all the fire stuff we're doing, I don't know if it would hurt to have their organization. I don't know if the board would be interested or if you're just talking about the staff, but either way, I think it never hurts to touch in with them and just, you know, they were here. That was great. But to actually have a kind of a dialogue with them.
Yeah, some things that might.
Those, you know, I think that's some of the most important, honestly, I think it's some of the most important things we're doing in the next couple of years is
Yeah.
tightening that up. So if a big event happens, hopefully we survive it, right?
And making sure they realize that we view them as partners and that we want their input and we aren't just gonna kind of dictate to them what we think we should be doing.
I mean, I think that's a group, I'd love to have a sit down with them or a joint meeting or whatever.
Right.
It's surprising in a small town how easily we can still get siloed and, we just, we cannot be siloed. We need to work
think the
together
school
very
board-
much.
School board's not whole, just to, it seems like we don't have that much collaboration with them, so anything.
But they are the largest landowner in the city.
Right. I'd like to know kind of what their thoughts are
Yeah.
on, you know, teacher housing out there and, you know, are they gonna rip out the disc golf course that I love so much? You know, stuff like that.
The pressing issues of the day.
Selfish,
Okay.
I know.
And then
We're
for
good.
your radar too, this was in the staff report, every 2 years, we, traditionally, the council's looked at the structure of how we kind of develop the goals and look at the goals. We have the categories like housing, livability and growth and welfare mitigation, and community resiliency. We haven't in the last, you know, several cycles done any kind of like holistic goal statements, you know, based around those type of ideas. But you know, it has been the practice every couple of years to relook at those. And just something for you guys to consider as you start thinking about goals is, do you want to think about goal statements or the goal categories itself, you know, as part of this process? You don't have to answer, but that's,
So on the 20th, we're scheduled from 9 to 1.
yeah. Yeah. Hopefully that's.
I'm
enough
wondering if
time.
we could fit all that into 9 to 1. That's what's going through my head.
We did last year.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We do a lot of
now he's
prep work.
talking about these.
7 years ago, our
Nobody
goal was
goes-
to keep it on one page.
I know, remember that.
And we're not there anymore.
No,
We're at 2 or 3 pages, I think.
Yeah.
We're just busier, you know?
Okay.
I mean, town's bigger, it's
Maybe,
busier.
maybe that's one of
Yeah.
the goals we
7
can
years
have
ago,
is streamline our
you
goals.
Get one page and just have one line, one
Well,
bullet
Okay.
points.
all right, are we good for
Yep. Yep, thank you.
that? All right,
we'll make it work.
staff comments.
Yeah, so first meeting of the month, I'll be doing the comments. Bear with me here. I'll
We
try
made
to,
Paul sit back there all this time.
well,
Scary.
staff are here to answer questions as they come up. Your next meeting is January 22nd. Next week, there's the conversation with council here in this room on Tuesday morning. Our newest counselors will be hosting that. The Roundabout Art Call for Artists closed last night. 53 proposals. So the first review is happening tomorrow. The community review is next week. And then public input is planned for March if all goes well. And I think we're fingers crossed, hopeful that it's looking like we got some great ideas. So great news on that. This week was also busy for staff when, or last week on Thursday when the campground reservations went online. Another 80 grand in camping reservation revenue came in on one day for all our popular nights and weekends. So that's almost a quarter of all the revenue that we get for the campground all in one day. So continues to be popular. We're also on the campground side working on recruiting for campground camp hosts. A few of ours, one will only be there for partially of the season, and then we lost another of our couple that have had something come up. So we have to recruit and get some camp hosts to fill in. Roundabout landscaping proposals. So we have an informal request out for proposals. Those are due January 15th. And so that's going to coincide nicely with the art. So this is the landscape design services for the roundabout and also the public right of way around the roundabout. Paul's been working on the Northwest Park Master Plan and getting an RFP out that's looking to be issued next week. So that's a council goal. We have a grant to pay for a large portion of that work. So that's going to be pretty busy for the Parks Board and staff this year. Our West Side Pump Station design that a few of you have probably been thinking about on your tours. That's almost done with design 90%, and then DEQ reviews that. And then we also have the Barclay improvements that have been bid and awarded. That work is scheduled, weather permitting, to start in February. So we'll already see some things, fired up and working on capital improvement projects this winter. On the community development side, on the UGB, the online open house I mentioned earlier, that's going to be closing on Friday at the end of the day. So already 122 completed surveys. And then, as you imagine, a lot of people start a survey and don't complete it, but we have some partially completed surveys in there too. So that's going to take some time to summarize and look at the feedback from both the online survey, but also the open house. On the real open house, not the online open house, and then prepare the draft alternatives analysis. So the UGB steering committee is meeting next on January 30th. So it'll be a busy week. So we have the 29th and 30th. So the steering committee is meeting that. And then Planning Commission will be reviewing on February 6th. And then we're planning for a city council review of the alternatives analysis in February as well.
What time is the UGB steering committee?
Those are typically at 4 o'clock, right?
I don't have my
I think
calendar, so I don't know if
no,
I heard about it.
Yeah. I guess that's another council appointment, but that was a 3-year appointment, I think, at the time, or not a 3-year, but a duration appointment of the, yeah.
You
Jeez.
talking about the steering committee?
Yeah, that was
I mean, it's Jennifer and I think we should just maintain that. I mean.
it was, at the time, it
kinda
was appointed through the
institutional knowledge
process.
At this
Yeah,
point.
sorry to
We've been to every
confuse you.
meeting. Yeah, so, yeah.
I think.
I didn't even think about it as an appointment though.
Right, because only a couple more meetings probably.
Yeah. So I think you all heard the news about the Dark Skies certification. And the official announcement, January 22nd is what we've been told. Is that correct? Oh, okay.
So we don't want to enlighten anybody.
Yeah.
She would never tell.
They don't want to be scooped on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Erase.
Okay.
But the intention would be that.
We're gonna be certified. Don't tell anybody.
There could be fireworks.
Yeah.
Starburst. We're gonna have Starburst.
Laser beams.
I provided a mayor comment on that, just so you know, so, a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So.
And then just last couple things. The Sisters Country Wildfire Mitigation Group met yesterday. I think there was like 15 folks that attended. Some of those were in attendance tonight with the Defensible Space workshop. It was more like 20, yeah. And again, just a lot of comments and that I heard from Matt and others at the meeting, just just proud of the community of having that kind of coordination and that, something that's not seen in a lot of places, that they're coming here, 20 to 25 professionals in fire and wildfire mitigation, talking about it and talking about how to protect the town. So pretty impressive. Great to see that. We'll continue to do that. I think it's only developing more steam as we move along. Obviously, one of the topics was the new fire hazard map that came out the last few days. Yesterday. So you've seen the announcements on that. From what I can tell, not a lot changes within the city of Sisters limits. But the appeal period has started. So we may be copied on letters and questions and appeals and things like that, but those are going to ODFW or
It's-
whoever's made it.
It's a little nonsensical too. I just don't understand it, to be honest.
And then finally, next week, thank you for making the appointments because advisory boards are meeting. So I think both the Parks Board and UFB are meeting next week. Is that right? And then Planning Commission later this month too. Oh, Planning Commission's next week. Sorry, we're already in the middle of the month.
Hey, that's me, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's it. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Is there any comments from counselors? Anything that they want to share? This is usually, a time that if we're on committees, we might share our
Stories.
meetings, anything significant going on, we feel like we need to share. So start at this.
Yeah,
end. Michael?
I wanted to comment, you guys all knew I kind of wanted to be mayor the last couple of years and stuff, and it was a little hard to go through this process that we did today. And most of it was not anything that you guys did. Most of it was introspective and how do I deal with that kind of change that wasn't expected, I guess is the proper way to say it. So I did a little bit of searching within myself and, look, I mean, this is what the charter says. The council picks the mayor. I'm good with that. I'm good with that system. I think it's a little clunky the way we have to go through it. I talked to Jordan a little bit about maybe creating some council rules that doesn't change the 2-year requirement that's in the charter, but we can put council rules to maybe make it a little less clunky so it doesn't feel like cloak and dagger-ish. It's not that it's cloak and dagger. It's not, nobody's picking on anybody. I'm proud of my work as mayor, and I think you guys have been really supportive of it over the years, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. But I think that there may be, and I don't know, I don't have any ideas about how, but I think there may be ways we can come up with council rules about how does it work and how does it happen, so everybody feels a little more comfortable with it, possibly. But I also did a little bit of searching about the stuff I did the last 4 years, and I'm kind of doing it a little bit for you, Jennifer, because this is what you can expect. I have done 77 council meetings as mayor, 51 COCO meetings the last 4 years, 21 EDCO type meetings. Even though I'm not on the board or stuff, I always went and helped Eric do, all the little things, the business roundtables, and I know you've done them too. I mean, it's not just me. 177 meetings with 2 city managers and assistant city manager in 3 different people. And 48 times I just stopped by City Hall just to see what was going on. And a lot of that, I fully admit, was time that I didn't want to work. So I came here to see what was going on in the city because I was avoiding work. But I've done 548 total official meetings in the last 4 years. And it adds up to about 800 hours, which is about 40 days work.
And how much did you get paid for all that?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, it costs me because every minute, you own your own business, any minute you're not working, you're not getting paid, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, I don't even want to know those numbers, to be honest with you. But what I did want to do was thank staff. I've had a great time working with you guys. Council, same thing. Nothing's really changing. I don't have to change my personality. I can still go out in the community and talk to people because I am an elected official. So nothing really changes other than 2 seats over, running meetings, couple of appointments here and there. So I'm fine. I just want you guys to know that everything's good. It has been an adjustment period. It's kind of just things on the inside that I've had to deal with. So I just wanted you to know everything's good. And we're gonna just keep doing what we do. So
Well, I hope so.
yeah, I really appreciate a couple of comments of saying, hey, this peaceful transfer of power, well, the Sisters Way, this is the Sisters Way, right? And, you don't have to be mayor to do the Sisters Way. Everybody in the community can do it the Sisters Way if they choose to. And that's how we do it, and we have been doing it, and we're gonna just keep on doing it.
I personally have been tripping people on the sidewalk and saying it's the Sisters Way.
So, anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Excellent
Thank
record
you.
keeping.
Well, I spent some late nights plowing through my computer trying to figure out. I love Excel. You can ask
Well, I
Joe.
was gonna say, did Joe put that?
No, it's all
together
me.
for you?
I
Okay.
didn't see any pie charts though.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in Venn diagrams.
Yeah.
Nope, but I did add it up to the minute.
Well, and I want to make a comment. I mean, I've appreciated working with you during my time on council. I think you did a great job running the meetings. You've been a good representative in the community. You've not been afraid when we've been confronted with controversy on certain occasions to step up and do what's right.
Yeah.
And Counselor Cobb, I mean, we've had the same discussion. I think that this town works because people care about it and come in and do the work and take the abuse and take the praise, hopefully more praise than abuse, but sometimes it's the other way around. And that's okay. That just kind of comes with the turf. But I truly appreciate what you have done for this town. And I truly appreciate what you have done for this group and for the staff here. I don't know who's going to be getting donuts from now on, but I do want to say that I, for one, very, very, very much appreciate it.
Thanks. We've done some tough stuff.
Yeah.
The two that stick out is the whole shelter conversation. That was
Yes.
hard from day one.
I almost resigned over that.
Yeah, that was just,
Jordan will tell
that
you.
was hard. Not hiring a city manager from a group of people that other people probably would have hired.
Yep.
And we just didn't feel comfortable with that. I'm not trying to disparage the candidates or anything. But that was actually the best decision we did because now we have.
Yep.
Wheels over here. So we're glad to have you.
Well, and I'm gonna just kind of put this on the table with, when we get to goal setting, one of the things I want to have a discussion about, it's not really a goal, but I want to talk about how we reorganize, exactly what you've been talking about. You know, do we have a process of a mayor serving 2 terms or whatever, the two-year terms, and then it just transitions to someone else?
Yeah.
So we have some kind of a clean way to make these breaks if that's what's going to happen. And also a way for somebody to say, hey, I don't want to do this. I'd like to back out and see who else would want to do it. And I think that we just kind of need to be a little more formalized in the process. And I think we just need to talk about that. I really do. And
I think we can make it council goals, right? So it's, I mean, council rules, rules of council, so
Certainly,
we
yeah.
don't have to open up the charter anymore.
Right.
I guess.
yeah, I don't want to get into
Don't
the
wanna
charter.
do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I think if we're opening up the charter for something else, then we can revisit that, but
Right.
I wouldn't recommend,
But I just think
Charter-
that, you know,
opening the charter is a pain in the butt.
I don't want to use the word term limits because it's a loaded term, but the reality is that maybe we have some kind of a period of time and it doesn't keep somebody from. The last organization I was in, we rotated the leadership position every year. And if 5 people, every 5th year, you were in this case, president of the board. But, something that kind of allows also development of new counselors and those sorts of things in leadership roles, I think would be beneficial.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
anyway.
And the nice thing about thanking you for your service as mayor is that we get to thank you and you still get to be here.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
it's not like,
You're
when
not like,
members leave and you're like, oh, that's sad, it's like, hey, and you're still here, this is great. So,
yeah, and what I do recommend, I've been really involved with OMA. It's elevated our status throughout the state as far as, and having a place where you can talk to other mayors. I mean, Rod Cross is the mayor of Toledo, which is kind of our size, It's over there at the beach, so the problems are completely different, but he's a great person and he's on my speed dial. I can, if I ever had a problem with the mayor thing, I could always go, hey, what do you think about this or that?
And they just formed a special pool district.
Yeah, well, but there's 240 mayors in the state, you know what I mean? So that's cool.
That's one thing to have nobody.
And honestly, those are the only people who really know what you do. Because there's just a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff. What did Gary call it? Counselor with superpowers kind of?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you called it? Was that you?
I may have used a different adjective, but yeah,
Yeah, okay. Anyway,
it might have been a word that sounds
that's enough
like.
for me. I'm done.
Thank you. Yes, I think I did call that counselor.
Sarah, do you have anything to share?
Not tonight, thank you.
Not tonight, okay. You're welcome to.
Congratulations, though.
Yes,
And thank you for being here,
congrats.
both of you.
Cheryl, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I
or-
do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do want to thank Michael for his service as mayor. When I was looking and considering being on council and or campaigning to be on council, a large part of my decision was seeing how professional the staff was and the existing council, including your role as mayor. So I want to thank you for that because it inspired me.
Cool.
Just real quick, December 18th, I went on a ride along with Jeremy Fields, our forest officer, local forest officer. Sarah joined and we learned quite a bit, and I was pretty amazed with the 10-mile radius that they're kind of covering, and how Jeremy develops the relationships with the people that are living out there in the forest. I also want to commend the Sisters Community Leadership Initiative. Sarah and I put on our gloves and picked up a bit from a campsite, and it was hard work and dirty work. Very dirty work, biohazard dirty work. So I appreciate and want to acknowledge all the work that's done by SCLI and the volunteers in regards to that task out there. And Jeremy estimated a couple things. One cleanup for one of the sites was a $12,000 cost, which is pretty significant. And they're filling up a 30 cubic yard dumpster once a month, which equates to like about 200 construction trash bags full of trash. That's all I had.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
No, I had my say. I kind of jumped ahead.
Oh, okay.
What else is new?
All right, I'll try to be as brief as possible. Jordan and I had a phone call with Allison Green with the State Fire Marshal's office. There have been some emails going around and concern about their current program to offer up $250 in incentive checks for doing some work, defensible space work. Sisters was not included in that. And so we did have a good conversation with her. She lives locally, you know, so knows the area really well. You know, we all three of us agreed, I think, that their data sets that they were using to come up with these lists were not the best choices. And you know, she did solicit us for ideas in the future if they do get more funding to do this program, maybe streamlining that process, maybe doing it by fire district. So then it's much more clear to constituents, but also to fire districts of where the lines are of who they can help and how they can help. So, nothing that can be done with that program right now. Also clarified that even though there were communities like Blackview Ranch or Eagle Crest on there, even though it was supposed to be for more geared towards lower income people, based on some maps and fire maps, it doesn't mean the whole community was eligible. It was just, there was a map and there was only kind of certain corners of the neighborhoods and stuff like that. So, anyway, not a perfect system, but, you know, we had a good conversation with her. So hopefully that will evolve into something more useful for everybody in the future if they do get more funding in this next session. I did attend the Sisters Country Economic Development meeting with Eric Strobel. Had a handful of attendees, excuse me, and I got to do the presentation as a UGB steering committee member of getting a chance to get in front of a few of those people and explain the process. So even though it was only a few people, it was intimate, but that was nice because you get a chance to do lots of Q&A. So, and of course, there was the people who've heard it 3 and 4 times, but you know, we're gonna all sing along at the end here. And that's about it, besides the holidays, so. And with that, I think we're done for the evening. Thanks for coming. Thanks for staying. Really gonna hope that we never have a meeting this long again, but can't make that promise. So have a good evening.
And I signed checks the other day. so
Oh,
thank you.
great.
I was here, so I'm